of ours from time immemorial. I only laugh at that because time immemorial is a really long time. But as long as I can remember, which is certainly 5 or 6 or 7 years. And I've heard from one of our presenters, Matt Hickman, a number of times. He's going to be up here again today. We appreciate him. And a new presenter, Kristen Pirazzini, and she's the Director of Digital Products for Yes Lifecycle Marketing. So please give them a warm welcome.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Bless you. All right, good morning, everyone. Yesterday's awesome breakfast presentation was focused on the consumer, giving the consumer what they want, which is really, super important, top of mind for everyone in this room. Today, Matt and I want to shift a little bit, shift our focus to someone a little bit more personal, and that's all of you, the marketers. What is it that the marketer wants? Today we're going to share some ideas on how to solve many common marketer frustrations, how they can be alleviated by tapping into smart, intuitive, real-time platform capabilities that span across multiple channels and can integrate with multiple data sources. Let's get started with some introductions.
All right, well, Kristen wanted me to send her a selfie, but I don't have any selfies, so I had to use the one my dog did here. But I've been with Yes Mail and Yes Lifecycle Marketing for about 12 years now, and I think this is about my 8th Email Insider Summit, so love being here.
Awesome. And I'm Kristen Pirazzini. I've been with Yes Lifecycle Marketing for about 3.5 years, but I have 12 years of hands-on client-side and vendor-side email and cross-channel marketing experience. So I was actually really nervous to speak this morning because usually I'm doing, product demos in front of 3 to 5 people. So this is a little different from what I'm used to, but I felt a little better after watching yesterday's breakfast presentations and the ongoing presentations all day. Some of them even gave me a few ideas to add to my presentation this morning. Thanks to Matt at Live Nation. Is he here today, or is he sleeping in? Well, thanks to him, I feel comfortable saying the word shit about 12 times in my presentation, and no one's gonna care. Also, I decided to start this talk with a little comparison: good at snowboarding versus bad at snowboarding. All right, so here we see Matt killing it at Mount Hood.
Kind of killing it. I'm super slow, but I like turning.
That's pretty good though, right?
I'm a slow, keep the board on the ground type guy.
All right, well, I just learned how to snowboard 2 seasons ago, and this was the result of my snowboarding experience at Email Insider Summit last year.
Now people recognize you.
Yeah.
Oh, that gal.
Yeah. So this is my snowboarding fail, and I promise this will come back into play when I do my hands-on product demonstration. All right. So just a little warm up there. Okay. So there's a wide range of people in this room, all different verticals. You guys all do different types of jobs, but we all have 2 things in common. First, we're all involved with the business of marketing. Whether we provide software or come up with communication strategies, or we're the hands-on worker bees that actually, get the campaigns out the door, we're all in this together. Secondly, as marketers, we all run into the same types of frustrations. So yesterday I did a little Google image search of frustrated marketer, and these are 4 of the images that came up. Now, I've been all of these guys, right? I've also been this guy. But we don't have to be that way. Sorry.
Kristen was, before she joined us, she was on the client side, so she's actually, you kind of forgot to say that, but she was an email marketer at Kohl's and other companies, kind of running the platform and sitting in the seats of many of you guys, so direct experience, which always provides a lot of relevancy, so.
Yeah, awesome. Sorry, I mixed up my slides. But yeah, so we all know all of the hiccups and frustrations that span across all of our job titles, no matter what your company is. So we're going to go through a couple of the different verticals that, you guys may be sitting in currently. Maybe you've held these roles before, but they're all really common marketer frustrations that we can all relate to. So first off, we've got, the CMO. The CMO is really interested in understanding the customer and consumer base. They want to, really understand the effectiveness of their marketing channels, go through, the reporting capabilities and performance trends. They really want to, make sure that their hands-on teams are super effective and successful. And finally, they want to, the bottom line cost of database marketing, traditional database marketing is always at the top of their minds.
Yeah, and we work with, not all of our clients were engaged at the CMO level, but one good example is West Marine. And with West Marine, they're remodeling a lot of stores around the country, and they're opening up new stores. And they, of course, have a solid omni-channel strategy, but they really are looking for ways to drive retail traffic, to drive brick and mortar traffic. And email, search, direct mail are all included, and the CMO, our main sponsor and client there, attribution's super important to her. And she provides a lot of guidance and insight to us in our product and roadmap and service offering, and way we can track attribution to the store level and how it can help determine how email and how social and mobile are all driving that traffic.
Great. So another type of role that, has a lot of hands-on user frustrations is the email marketing manager. I actually spent a bulk of my time as an email marketing manager for a number of B2B and B2C companies, and just understanding the day-to-day of the email marketing manager, there are a number of frustrations that we think that we can solve here. So what's really important to the email marketing manager? Having a user-friendly, intuitive platform that their team feels comfortable moving through is definitely something that is at the top of mind for that specific role. Also, going hand in hand with that is, creating campaigns, whether they're simple to complex, and making sure that they can integrate all of their multi-channels into that, being as efficient as possible for all of that work. Thirdly, a lot of email marketing managers may work hand in hand with an engineering team that, does some of their segmentation, but as an email marketing manager previously, I was actually responsible for a lot of the segmentation, list cutting, and, that was always a little hurdle for me because I'm a little bit more on the creative side, less on the technical side, so, learning SQL code was not my favorite day, but, the super fast and really relevant segmentation capabilities that are hands-on and intuitive are really important for an email marketing manager. And then finally, to kind of bring it all full circle, a robust, real-time platform reporting capability is obviously really important. You want to be able to, act on your results and be as relevant as possible for all of the, subscribers that you have.
And another good example of that, Riot Games. I don't know if any of you guys play League of Legends. They're a little bit higher than the average demographic there, but they'll have like 30 to 50 million concurrent users sometimes playing that game globally. And it's really important for them to be able to react super quick with their campaigns, be able to go in and get fast list counts over to certain segments so they can fire off some transactional emails to sell in-game content, which is their whole business model. So large database, large data sets, and needing that really super fast list counts for and targeting counts. So it's another good example, probably relevant to a lot of you folks in here.
Awesome. And then one more vertical we want to kind of look at, one more job vertical is, a strategic analyst. Maybe they're not quite as hands-on with the email tool, but they'd still like to be able to use that technology to, tap into the flexible reporting capabilities, or, do a little bit of extra data discovery, kind of slice and dice the data, look for thoughtful and instinctive kinds of data points that they may want to act on. Also, the ability to use those data points to drive further strategic planning. Strategic analysts are looking at the right now, the effectiveness of right now, but they're also helping the entire marketing team plan what's coming for the future.
For example, Disney, one of our clients where we manage their deliverability, they need to react quickly and have really good insight onto hourly issues that pop up, such as Gmail bulking, for example. So they need to know, at a real-time basis what's happening, what kind of campaigns are hitting, what kind of blocks where, so they can react quickly and we can remedy some situations for them.
Great. All right, so the good thing is all of these frustrations, we all feel one or two or maybe all of them at some point in our careers, but the solutions are in reach. So, the challenges like juggling multiple platforms or dealing with, a non-user-friendly platform, those kinds of things can all be, alleviated and consolidated by utilizing a platform that really kind of takes all of these different nuances and job titles and capabilities and, combines it all into one, into, a single cross-channel platform that gives you a 360-degree view of the customer, where all of their customer data is in one easy place that's, user-friendly and able to be sliced and diced and in a way that, an email marketing manager will understand it, and also your analysts and engineers will understand it. And we have that solution for you. It's YesMail 360i.
Yeah, YesMail 360i is our platform that, our kind of tagline is it unites data, technology, and processes to give you, the marketer, tools to make big data, derive insights, and turn them into relevant, goal-oriented marketing communications. So it's really pretty revolutionary. It's something we're super excited about, and a lot of clients are loving.
Yeah, and the enhancements to the YesMail 360i platform, we think different is better. It really brings in that real-time speed, the true integration and the full circle view of the customer. Train of thought analysis is kind of a new concept for us, but we think it's really baller because, as fast as you can think of the type of list you want to cut, you can make that list up, and if you want to change it, you don't have to wait for your traditional database query times. It's in sub-seconds. And also, this is really important for me, someone who had formerly been hands-on in the platform day in and day out. A really intuitive interface that really works with a marketer's kind of day-to-day workflow, and all of these things are really important, we think. We want to give you a real quick hands-on demonstration and kind of take you through a day in the life of, those three personas that we talked about, the CMO, the email marketing manager, the strategic analyst, and just kind of pull out a few highlights and tidbits of those platform capabilities that we talked about. All right. All right, so we're going to go into the YesMail 360i platform. I'm going to log in here. So we're going to start off with that CMO persona, right? The CMO maybe doesn't want to be in the weeds in, the campaign creation process. Maybe they don't want to have to dig for their reporting capabilities. Maybe they want to log into the platform and, be hit in the face with the relevant things that are interesting to, what they're looking for. Things like, like I mentioned before, understanding their customer base, the effectiveness of the marketing tactics across multiple channels, really kind of high-level reporting and performance trends, and then also, obviously, running in the background is the ultimate success of their hands-on team. They're thinking about how their team can use the platform to be as successful and as efficient as possible. So first off, the frustrations that were solved for the CMO, one that we don't really have to demo is the cost. So marketers of all different sizes understand the benefits of having a database with all of their consolidated data, available to be queried or, sliced and diced for relevant communications through marketing. The YesMail 360i data schema is cost-effective and really flexible, and it allows the CMO's team to nimbly build on a solid, integrated foundation as the need or business case arises. So it's really very flexible. The data integration, it allows for a lot of really powerful kind of segmentation, and the cost is a lot lower than your traditional database. Secondly, the single view of the customer is really important to the CMO, right? So what we can see within the YesMail 360i platform is that, they can come in here and they can, look at multiple channels. So we've got email, different types of social posting in here. We can feed in, push notifications from your app, or if you've got a mobile vendor, we can integrate all with that. And so your team and the CMO's team can be really effective in setting up, sending out, and consolidating reporting across all of these different channels. Thirdly, the success and productivity of the team is really important to them. So what they can do is they can come in here and they can, see all of these different items that their teams have been working on. They can keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on with their scheduled programs or with any triggered campaigns that are going out the door. Additionally, the fact that all of these channels are kind of brought together here, that's kind of one side of it. But secondly, we've also consolidated our deliverability intelligence platform so they can, very easily open a new tab and get into that deliverability insights. We've also got the ability to tap into competitive intelligence, our customer generator tool. So really all of these softwares and products that are working hand in hand with their marketing team, they can really kind of, like I said, keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on just by kind of navigating through the homepage here. Anything?
No, good.
All right. Great. Fourthly, one last thing I wanted to point out. Something that's really important for a CMO may be, to get their hands on some high-level reporting. And this is something I mentioned just a few minutes ago. We've got a full KPI dashboard that allows you to kind of toggle between your different business units and see, a monthly overview of all of your overarching campaigns. You can get a really high-level campaign summary, tap into your database health. We've even got a ready-made mobile dashboard where your different users are able to pop into it and view, mobile versus desktop open rate versus mobile versus desktop click rate, as well as, here we go, different device types that we're tracking automatically. And the really awesome part about all of these data points is that they're usable and actionable across all of your job verticals and across really all of the functionalities available within YesMail 360i. I'm going to go back to the homepage here and start talking about the email marketing manager. And this is really where I'm the most familiar, right? I've never been a CMO, but I know the ins and outs of being an email marketing manager. So first off, efficiency in setting up campaigns is, king for the email marketing manager. What's really awesome about the enhancements to the YesMail 360i platform is the fact that you can open up multiple email campaigns here, and you can, for example, start toggling back and forth between them, and really multitask and get a lot of things done here. We've also got a really easy to follow 4-step workflow process that's color coded, and it makes it easy for all of your email marketing managers and ancillary team members to be able to come in and easily see where you are in each step of the process here. The usability of the platform is also really kind of designed with the hands-on user in mind. As Yes Lifecycle Marketing, we have full-service clients, we have self-service clients, and we have the hybrids that are in between. And this platform really kind of it works for all of them. But as a former self-service client, having all this drag and drop functionality is it's really great for your multi-channel campaign planning and things like that. The single platform is awesome because you get that overarching customer view across all of your different channels. And then thirdly, I think that probably the most exciting enhancement to the YesMail 360i platform is this concept of actionable analytics, and I'm going to demo that right now. So first off, I am going to go into excuse me, our Insight Lab here. An Insight Lab is a data enhancement for our platform here. It really kind of takes what you would get in a traditional database, that visualization of data slicing and dicing, and it couples that with our key acceleration layer, which means that you can slice and dice across millions of records and billions of rows in sub-seconds, and I'm going to demo that right now. So what I can do is I can come in here and I can start to create a Venn diagram, right? Maybe I want to come over to the right-hand side, and this is really where all of the magic happens, right? If I hit this drop-down here, I can see I've got multiple data sources all fed into this one user-friendly interface. So I can tap into my individual table. I can tap into my, my loyalty table if I've got one, my response data that's sitting on a table. All of these different tables can come in and be able to be accessed right within this one user interface. So for example, maybe I'm an email marketing manager and I'm saying, okay, well, I want to see all of my subscribed folks that I have here, right? And I can add that to my Venn diagram. And then maybe I say, okay, well, how many subscribed women do I have? I can go to my gender attribute here, layer on or, drag over my female gender attribute, and I can see what the crossover is there. And the concept of actionable analytics is, this isn't just a pretty picture, right? I can actually click on one or more of these, sections of the Venn diagram and save them down here as a new list or selection. And that makes it actionable, meaning I can use that as an inclusion to, use it as my list that I'm sending to. Or I can use it as a suppression and, hold out any subscribed women if I have, a male-focused campaign or whatever. I can even, layer something else on and say, okay, well, I want to look for all of the married women on my list. I'm going to go ahead and, see what that crossover is. And then I can, grab one or two or, 5 of these different categories and then make that list actionable. Now, this tool is really great for the email marketing manager like I was, less technical, didn't really know that much about HTML or that much about coding. But we've also got a tool that goes hand in hand with this, and it's called the Selection Builder. So when you go into the Selection Builder, you'll see it again, it opens up in another tab. It's basically the same type of layout. You've got your whiteboard over here and your data sources over here. And what I can actually do here is I can go in and I can build out that same type of selection, going into my individual tab, grab my email subscribers. I'm going to hit Add over here, and it adds it to my list here. And then I'm going to hit the Auto-Calculate button at the bottom, and then I'll hit Count. Now watch up at the top, there's going to be a little green bar that comes across. All right, so the count is complete in 0.348 seconds, and it's gone through 2.2 million records here. So that's really flippin' fast. So, maybe I want to, for this list, I want to grab all of the guys on my list, and I'll say, okay, well, I'm looking for all of the subscribed men, right? So what's my count at now? Oop. I'm going to reorder this. All right, great. So now I'm at count. My count is 886,482 men. All right, great. So, maybe I want to add, a sub-selection here. Maybe I want to look for all of the men who had opened or clicked, right? I can actually go ahead and create a sub-selection group here, go into a different table very easily, go into my interaction table, for example, or maybe I want to go into my response table. Yeah, here we go. So maybe I want to look for all of the men who had, opened my email, right? I'll go ahead and add it to that little group there. Now I'm down to 134,000. Do you think that's enough? I don't know. Maybe I want to add, have they clicked as well? I'm going to add that there. Oh, well, see, I don't know how many had opened and clicked, so I'm going to expand it and say how many of them had opened or clicked. All right, well, here's my list, 140,000. Maybe I want to save that. I can go ahead and save it. Because I'm an email marketing manager, maybe not a coding expert, I can still see a description here, which is a little fuzzy, but it kind of brings together all of those different tables so I can, tap back into this list later and know exactly where it came from. So what I can do is I can go ahead, I can save this list, I'll just save it as EIS demo list, hit save, great. And then when I come back to the home page here, this recent items block is really relevant for that email marketing manager too, because anything that they had touched recently will show up here, and then I can very easily tap back into it. The YesMail 360i platform also includes, your standard A/B and multivariate testing. We have the ability to test up to, 5 subject lines and 5 creatives and whatnot. But all of those kinds of tools go hand in hand with not only this, enhanced selection capability, but also all of the standard reporting capabilities that are available within YesMail 360i. All right, bless you. And then one more persona that I wanted to go through today real quick is the strategic analyst. So again, their concerns are flexible reporting capabilities, having instinctive data discovery, the ability to kind of dig into the data a little bit more. And that's really where the selection tool comes into play, right? The strategic analyst, could come in here and, layer on a list that was created and layer on results and, kind of derive some insights from that. Another way way that they can utilize the 360i platform here is by, tapping back into, the Insight Lab. So for example, when I was over here in the initial demo, I was utilizing all of these different data tables. But what you can also do within YesMail 360i is you can utilize any of those selections that you've already created and, layer them on top of each other, see what the crossover is, layer on additional data attributes, so you can really kind of do extra digging into, what that audience is and, derive some insights from it. So here's that Email Insider demo list that I just created. So if I was a strategic analyst, for example, maybe I'd want to look at this list and I'd say, okay, well, we sent this email on Monday. I want to do a little bit of data discovery on it, right? So what I can do is I can actually, tap into, any of these tables here. Maybe I want to see, what the marital status was of, these folks here. So I can, how many of them were single, layer that on, and I can see, okay, well, out of this list, I had a group of 13,000 that were single. Well, maybe that's not exactly what I want to do, so I can delete it. And the incredible speed of YesMail 360i allows us to do that, like I mentioned, as fast as I can think it. I can create the list or change it, save it for future use, etc. One other thing that I wanted to share, another kind of nice to have within the YesMail 360i platform is the info group enhancement data. So what that is a group of data attribute points that we've collected and we're using to supplement your client's data. And what you can do is you can come in here into the enhancement data table and, for example, maybe we want to focus on people that know how to snowboard for our future, Email Insider Summit email that we're sending out. So perhaps, we want to send it to people like Matt and not to people like me. So, we'll look for, maybe our outdoor activities model. We'll look for, the top 3 that are, have the propensity to be, to do outdoor activities, add that on, and then I can see what the crossover is. So I can see, okay, well, out of that, list that I created of my, my men or whatever, I can see that the crossover with that enhancement data gives me additional insight into, things that I may not know from my own personal marketing. I may know that, Matt opens his email and he opened, the last 4 emails that we sent him, and he also gets, SMS messages from us. But if we can also tap into the fact that he's an outdoor enthusiast, he likes to go hiking, his kids play lacrosse, or, he's married with 3 kids or whatever, if we have that extra data that we can layer on top of it, not only the strategic analyst, but all different team members will be able to kind of derive additional insights from, just your kind of normal standard marketing.
Good.
Great. All right, so a couple more things. Great, so I'm not going to read through all this. You guys have any questions about YesMail 360i? We've got a couple other folks here in the room. If you want to raise your hands. YesMail? Yes Lifecycle Marketing? 1, 2. And us. So if you have any questions, we would really love to talk to you about, any frustrations you may be having, sucking at snowboarding, any of those things. But thank you very much.
Kristen, thanks so much, and Matt, thank you guys. It's always nice to see an actual platform in motion and in action, so thank you for sharing that with us. And again, we're good at getting all you guys together in one place and taking you skiing, but we don't really give you anything to take home, and these presentations by our sponsors really provide that. So thank you again for doing that, and you'll be hearing more from others as we move on through the conference here. We're going to take 5 minutes to refresh the coffees and clean the room. We'll be right back with the morning keynote. Thanks.
If you grab half, just walk it forward towards me. There we go. And the clicker, you guys are going to want to grab.
Yeah.
And let's figure out, you want to move 2 chairs forward? Okay. So we'll take the 2 middle chairs and bring them forward. Is that okay? And if you guys, then we can tilt them towards one another a little bit. How's that?
So I have a little bit of intro.
Great, okay. Well, can we, maybe we can, okay, you're going to use the hand mic. So we're going to put this, and she can use that. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Sorry about my
We'll get them up, they'll be going on both sides.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to day 2 of the Winter Summit. By the way, I know a lot of you are new to this summit, but you may not be aware that of all of the many MediaPost shows that we do, the Email Summit is the longest running and far and away the most popular, both with attendees and with sponsors. We really get a fantastic turnout, and as you've known, you've met some people who have been coming here for up to 10 years. This is really a great community, this summit. It's wonderful, by the way, as the head of events and the programmer of this event, it's really wonderful to program an event like this. I mean, as you can tell, everybody on this stage are all marketers. And so we're getting direct from the horse's mouth exactly what they want, what they need, what they're working on. We also get great events like last night. How was the cheese the cheese fest last night? Is that something? Holy, good Lord. And a packed cocktail party yesterday. Really, it's really wonderful to see a community of professionals who really know their stuff, really are focused on this field, and we love their support. We love the support of our sponsors who help bring this event. I also want to mention that, as I mentioned yesterday, we live stream all of this. So if you have colleagues back at the office who aren't catching this, you can ping them and tell them to tune in at MediaPost.com, and they can see the live stream. We're also posting the videos and many of the slides from the presentation as we go. Some of yesterday's content is already online. The rest will be on soon. Likewise, today and tomorrow will be up, so you can go back and refer to them then. I also wanted to mention, as I said, even though this is the most popular of all of our events, we have over 30 events here and in Europe each year. And I wanted to mention a couple that are coming up because I think they're relevant to some of you. For those of you who may want to attend and participate, we're going to be doing our Brand Marketers Summit, which focuses on cross-channel and also content marketing, a theme that's been coming up throughout this event. And we're going to be doing that right before South by Southwest in Austin. That's going to be March 7th through the 10th. I and John Ranga, our VIP coordinator, we are looking for people who are interested in coming to that event right before South by. Austin's a great town to hold a summit in. We just did it a few months ago for publishers. It worked out really well. And we'll be doing it right before South by, so if any of you are thinking of going there, this is a great preamble to that. And in fact, at South by, we do our annual, I think we're in our 5th year of doing a day of content for South by Southwest on their official program, all focused on marketers. We look at the intersection of emerging technologies and marketing. So at that show, we're going to be spending a day looking at artificial intelligence, at virtual reality and augmented reality, at Internet of Things and its relationship to the new shopping experience, and how brands are leveraging live streaming. So if you're going to be there, we'll be there. If you're interested in coming by and stopping in, any South by ticket holder can come to our event there, but we're also looking for participation from the brands. So if any of you are interested in that, let me know.
And sponsors.
The voice of God.
And sponsors. Okay, I'm back here.
Where is he? And sponsors. Oh, that's right. Where's John? Where's John? The voice of God, John Whitfield wanted to remind us we are also always looking for sponsors for those events. And then, of course, the next Email Insider Summit is going to be on Amelia Island on May 31st through June 3rd. I'm always looking for ideas. We'll be talking tomorrow in our roundup session about where we might move forward and the things we might talk about in our next session, but I'm always looking for ideas and for volunteers to speak and present at the next show. So please come to MediaPost and ping me. All right, so yesterday was more about strategy, email as a strategy, not a tactic. Today we'll get a little more tactical. So we're going to have sessions talking about attribution, about acquisition, and about leveraging data. But we're going to start off by extending one of the things that I think Matt Anarino started us with yesterday, and that is an example of a company that really has nailed its email communication with its core constituency and its core product, but how it's starting to extend that into new product lines and trying to find new content and new data to serve customers in new ways and try and find new revenue streams. And I'm talking, of course, about Zillow. How many of you have used Zillow, have shopped for a house using Zillow? So we all know the experience. But we're going to talk about how Zillow is now moving beyond that core experience of shopping and starting to look at new revenue streams, new business models, and also in the process, new ways of collecting data, understanding data, and also developing content to serve those needs. Let me ask Tara Clark to come up and join me. She is the director of email at Zillow. She oversees all of the email programs, including CRM, lifecycle, and content marketing. She's been with Zillow and serving them for a number of years, but before that was at Sony and also in the cruise and hotel industry. So please welcome Tara Clark. So, Tara, as you know, I'm one of your most devoted customers because my wife and I have been obsessively looking for a house for 10 years. So I know what I get every morning from Zillow. And in fact, if I don't get it, I'm wondering what's going on. But outline for us, let's start with the core product. Because there are so many triggers, so many signals, so many data points that you're getting from consumers that you use, and many that you don't use.
Sure.
Tell us about that core experience that we're starting with, and some of the key triggers that you're using and the kinds of content that you're serving.
Okay. Let me figure out the clicker and get to the right spot here. Thank you to all of you who raised your hand for using Zillow. We're grateful. And if you have feedback about the tools or the app or anything, let me know. I love to pass it along. So most of you are, if you use Zillow, you're familiar probably with some of what I'm showing here. As Steve mentioned, we're known for the shopping experience. We've sort of nailed that for people, especially on the email front. We're really good at keeping you up to date on specifically what you might be searching for in terms of a house or a rental. We're good at keeping you up to date on if you've saved a favorite home, the changes that have happened to that home. Or the weekend shopper email on the far right. If a home in your area that meets your criteria has an open house, then we're going to try to send you out to it. And so that's a lot of what people know us for today.
And we should point out just the nature of the content of these emails. They're highly transactional in that they're very bare bones. You're not telling a story here. You know exactly what somebody wants, and they just want that raw information.
Right, yeah. I mean, these are, the best examples of people telling us specifically what they're looking for and us saying, here's the thing that meets your criteria.
What are some of the key triggers that are at work here in this basic set that you're using to understand what you're sending to people and what they need to know when?
Well, these are people utilizing our search functions and our filters or saving homes, in many cases, or even, I think I have one couple slides ahead, the home report email there. Mm-hmm. That's another one where people have claimed their own home on Zillow. So some of you, that's the other thing that people are most familiar with, I think, is the valuation model, and so the value on your own home, which is another case where we're telling you specifically, like, okay, we know specifically what you're looking for here, and so because you're telling us, we're not guessing at any of that.
So my point in just setting this baseline is that there's a pool of very rich content that you're getting, constant interaction from people as they're interacting with the daily emails, as you're seeing the patterns patterns of behavior online, the cadence of their activity, and you're answering them with highly transactional emails that are fairly bare bones in terms of content. I just wanted to set that baseline because as we move into this next stage, all of those things change for you.
Right.
The kind of content that you collect from people, what you really know about where they are in the process,
right.
And then the kind of content challenge.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you've nailed this experience and what you're trying to move into. What's that new set of products that you're trying to draw people into?
So one thing that's a challenge for us on the email side or the CRM side in general is we're not part of a home transaction, and so we're helping people find a home they like, maybe find a mortgage that's appealing to them or an agent that they think is most useful to them. But we really lose sight of people as they move from phase to phase in that transition. And so because we're not a part of a home transaction, we don't know that someone necessarily bought one of the homes that we showed them or sent them to, or we can be super helpful with providing access to mortgage brokers or quotes for people that are looking for a home loan or refi. We don't necessarily know that they went ahead and chose that broker or that mortgage. And so it's hard for us. We sort of lose sight of people as they move from transition to transition. So we sort of know a lot about you, and when you're in that one, if you're getting the home report email, we know, yep, you're a happy homeowner. We can keep you up to date on your value and things happening around you. We don't necessarily know if you're thinking about selling or dipping a toe into like investment property and stuff like that. And so that's a challenge for us that we try to sort of figure out through testing of content and tools.
So now you're using a whole different set of analytics and predictive analytics to try to figure out what phase somebody is in. When they, after somebody like me who's been shopping for 10 years, at what point does a pathetic soul like me actually pull the trigger and buy the house? You don't have an indicator of when my wife and I finally have decided on
Right.
someplace.
Oh, we haven't shown you the right house yet, I guess.
Well, yeah. Let's not get into that. So, what are some of the things that you're using to try to figure out what the phase changes?
Well, there's a couple of instances. I've clicked ahead back to the home report again. So on the left here, this is something we shipped recently that's it's essentially like a re-engagement email or sort of we've noticed you've stopped opening your search results emails. And so helps us on the clean list and sort of data hygiene front. But the other thing it does, that bottom red arrow, is sort of an upsell of helping us figure out, well, maybe you did buy a home, so maybe that's why you've stopped answering or looking at your search results emails. And so this is one opportunity for us to at least figure out if you've moved to a new stage. And so helps us in that it keeps our data clean because we don't want to send you the stuff that you're not looking at anymore, obviously. But if you did buy a home, go and claim it, and we'll sort of put you in a different bucket. So that's one example. And then I have a couple others here of places where we're trying to infer some behavior. The one on the right is sort of a version of our search results email, but these are people who have executed a search, maybe looked at some of the results from that search, but not saved that search, and so they're not getting the email. So what we've done is take a stab at packaging that search for you. It's sort of our version of an abandoned browse. We don't have a cart. So we're taking a look here at, we think you might be looking for these type of homes, and so we're inferring that we could, save this search on your behalf. Or we've got this other thing on the left that's, if you keep coming back to the same page on Zillow, and it's a certain home, and you're a signed-in user, then we're going to pop that thing that says, hey, are you the owner of this home? So that's another opportunity for us to try and get you in the right bucket. The mortgage rate one is, again, people who maybe executed a search on the quotes page, but didn't necessarily take it beyond that. And so trying to keep you up to date on rates and stuff like that. So these are all versions of us trying to at least figure out what you're up to.
Yeah, and we haven't talked so far at this summit that much about data collection. And what really intrigued me about these examples that you showed me was it raises the issue of transparency. You're actually talking to customers about the data you're collecting about them. You're telling them you evidenced a set of behaviors, and we're inferring some things. Help us along. If you help us, we'll give you some more. But I'm impressed by the level of transparency here. That you're essentially telling the customer, look, there's a machine here. We're a machine. We're working with a set of algorithms. These are the things we're seeing about your behaviors. We can make this machine serve you better if you tell us this. And I think that's an interesting concept about transparency, and it raises a question about the level of transparency you want with your customers and the kind of brand relationship you want with them. You're not pretending to be anything but a set of very sharp algorithms that are serving them in a certain set of ways.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about how you're thinking about transparency?
Yeah, I think we try to be really clear about that. That's sort of a thing that Zillow tries to be upfront about all the time. We have very powerful data sort of, running the platform, the valuation models, everything. People don't always know, why is my home on Zillow? Well, all of our data is publicly available data. We're just sort of gathering it and packaging it in a way that allows us to do this estimate valuation and things like that. The case of this recommendations email, this was new for us in terms of a first step into making an inference in behavior for our users and trying to help them. So we felt like it was probably appropriate to say, hey, we noticed you doing this thing. In this case, we popped the unsub to the top of the email. If we've done the wrong thing here or you don't want this email, or I don't know if you can read it, it says save another search. And so if we've sort of gotten your search slightly wrong, then please go ahead and set us straight. So yeah, we try to be transparent, I think, and open about what we're doing and what we know about you. We have a lot of data that we're
And,
sitting on.
and yeah, as we're gonna see, one of this next stages you're bringing consumers to, especially the homeowner stage, is one where they're taking control of the tools themselves. So in many ways, you're sort of inviting them in to play with the tools. Look, you're part of the machine too.
Right.
You can tinker with your own data, and we'll start serving you better. And it kind of gets them into a mode where they'll essentially be able to start taking control of the tools.
Yeah, we have I was talking with someone about this last night at dinner, about, agents always have the ability to edit their listings on Zillow. If for some reason the data is wrong, some of this data coming from counties might be old or not as up to date as it could be, or maybe you did a remodel and we don't know about your fourth bedroom. So a homeowner always has the ability to go in and make sure the facts are correct. That helps us, actually, helps the Zestimate value be better and smarter, helps you, and that the information is presented accurately, especially if you're thinking about selling your house, or something is sort of misrepresented. You've also
made a decision about what kind of brand relationship you want with your user. You're not maybe I'm underscoring too much this point about transparency, but I think that all of these things when it comes to content and communicating with consumers tells them something about the brand. And one of the things you're electing to do here is not pretend you're human, or that they're being communicated with by anything that's resembling that's human-like, so much as this is an organization with a machine that's working on your behalf. We need some data from you to serve you better,
right.
Rather than this is your friendly robot. It seems like there's a brand decision here.
We definitely want people to know there are humans in the building.
Right,
People don't
okay.
always know that, but we've learned over time that brands have personality, obviously, and as we've grown and sort of our personality has evolved, what we've realized is what people want from us is sort of trusted partner, not necessarily like best friend buddy kind of, but really sort of smart partner that has information that helps you be smarter about all your home decisions, whether you're renting or buying or selling or remodeling or refinancing or anything like that. We want to be a trusted partner and friend, but maybe not your best
Not
buddy.
your buddy. You don't need a mascot. We don't need a Zillow bear.
Yeah, we want the brand to be warm and approachable, obviously, and we want people to embrace that. But we know that we bring sort of a certain set of tools and features that.
Now,
that
part of
people-
this requires a certain relationship with your engineering team, because what you're doing is they're creating tool sets that homeowners are going to be using to manage their own data and manage their own potential sale or refi or whatever they're doing.
Right.
But you're also developing new data sets about them. You're developing new products to speak to them from email. So tell us a little bit about your relationship with the engineering team and how that works.
Yeah, it's. There are many engineering teams at Zillow and across Zillow Group, obviously. We have a great relationship with all of them. My team is the marketing team. On the marketing team, we have really strong relationships across engineering. Those teams own their charter. They own pieces of the website or the apps or the feature sets or things that people are using. So what we do in those cases is partner with them on their email pieces of work, essentially the things that support their product. So this email is a good example of something that's new. We have teams that are focused on sort of the seller experience. And so if you're using Zillow to figure out how to sell your home or how to price your home or some set of tools, we're building that stuff out. So this email is one that we're sending to people that we know have, they've claimed their home might be on the market, and so we're keeping them up to date on a daily basis. I don't know about you, but I sold a home 2 years ago and was checking Zillow and all the other places where my home was listed constantly. How many people have looked at it? How many people have saved it? Like, is there anything happening on my home? And so this is our version of sort of expanding our sort of toolkit to help sellers in a more active way. This was built by an engineering team. And so we work closely with these teams as they build their emails, make sure that it's sort of user-friendly and the right thing and the data is all correct and stuff like that. And then there's also a team that I work with that runs sort of infrastructure, the reputation management piece of email. And so really strong relationships across engineering to sort of make the email piece
Well, how do
better.
you do that? Yesterday, there was a lot of talk about, every time IT's name was mentioned, there were shrugs, eye rolls, and gasps of exasperation.
Yeah.
You seem to have a better relationship with your engineering team than many. Give us some ideas of how you actually do that. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, it's we have the same complexities, I would say, the same prioritization battle, definitely. I think we understand that probably the email piece of their work is lower on the prioritization list because they have to build the feature set or the tool that the email would support or drive to first. Zillow wouldn't exist without the engineering teams building the products and the apps and making them better all the time. So it's just a matter of, and maybe it's just the fact that I've been there a while and have established good relationships, but it's sort of just being present in the prioritization meetings and raising your hand and reminding them about the email piece that either needs to be built or needs to be improved. So over time, I mean,
But
everyone.
also, your own team takes on some of this?
Yeah, we sort of
tell us about
deploy
that.
them out to all the prioritization, as well as sort of invite anyone on my team to sort of put on a mini engineering hat as well, and learn the feature set, learn what we can do to sort of run more quickly on our own. We're all rowing in the same direction, and so it's really just a matter of.
But you also have assets for them, right? I mean, for the engineering team. You have things that you can teach them, especially when it comes to this part of their job, which is
Yeah.
developing tools for sellers.
Yeah, stuff like this. So what I was mentioning before, about sort of us losing track of people, as these teams are building features and tools. Here, I can click ahead again on a couple more. So these are examples of us trying to sort of help the teams get smarter about what might be missing in the tool or how a tool can be made stronger. I don't know if you can read these here, but we've got sort of the buttons in both emails. On the left says, see your best time to list, and then the other one is price your home. And so these are the tools we're building that are helping people start to think about selling in particular. So we can then bring this information back to engineering. We can say, look, we're testing some content. We're trying to figure out who might be thinking about selling. These are opportunities for us to learn, again, how to sort of appropriately bucket people, but also, hey, guess what? The bounce rate on the Price Your Home page when we're sending people there from email is really high, too high. So what is missing in that experience from sort of content about pricing your home to landing on that page that we can then improve? And so that's a partnership with engineering where we've got email data and bounce rate or whatever,
Right.
and can help improve products. So virtuous
Right.
circle.
Now, but ultimately, and then now to sort of go back from what we foreshadowed in the beginning, that core set of emails that you send people like me are highly transactional. They're very barren of content other than the listings themselves. But as we start moving into trying to sell people on these new tool sets and get them engaged as homeowners in all these various products that you have, and by the way, they're fairly high margin products. We're talking about the things that you're trying to involve people in, these homeowners in, represent pretty decent revenue streams for Zillow. This is a content problem now, because now you have to talk to people in a very different way from what you're used to. It's not just a database driving listings to people, but now you have a story to tell, and these are much more complicated things that people have to work with. So tell us about this content challenge that you've got.
Yeah, it's so my team's charter, for the next, let's say, year and the previous 6 months is sort of figure out what the content is that helps sustain people and their connection to Zillow outside of these super transactional kind of, oh, your favorite home had a price drop, or you've got an open house in your area this weekend. And so how can we start to evolve the content story? I mean, we have done a lot of one-size-fits-all marketing, and people like it. It's great. It's varied. We have a great relationship with our friends on the content team at Zillow. Each piece is the emails are curated specifically for email. So a lot of eye candy and tips and all kinds of fun things. But beyond that, again, to go back to the bucketing of people and the testing of the types of content that work, that's really what's on our roadmap for the coming years.
So we've got a bunch of
Yeah, a
examples
couple
about
other
that,
examples.
right.
Again, like more on the selling side. And I should say, I've done a disservice to our designers and our teams, because I was sitting at my desk while I made all these screenshots. These are all desktop, but we are a mobile first company, so everything that we do is designed for mobile first, and then we will look at the desktop version. So what you're seeing here are obviously the desktop versions, but everything is mobile first. So these are good examples of us trying to figure out, again, we know that if you're selling your home, you're going to want performance on your listing and who's looking at it and who's saving it and what might be happening. But beyond that, what else can we try to help with, and how else can we help you understand how to think about selling, or when might be a good time to sell? That best time to list one that was on the previous slide, that's an opportunity where people might be happy in their home. It might be that we understand that your market is super hot and maybe you should think about selling. Maybe you weren't thinking about selling, but maybe you should. Maybe your neighborhood is going gangbusters right now, and we can see that, and we think that that's something that you should know. Maybe there's money to be made by considering selling. So these are examples of seller content we've tested recently. On the renter side, renters are really hard, and we try a lot. We throw a lot of, I think it was Matt yesterday, throw a lot of shit at the wall and see what sticks. We do that with our...
That's now the signature phrase.
Yeah, I think so.
Matt gave us the signature phrase of this.
The theme of these 2 days. So renters, I clicked through a renter checklist. That's one, again, sort of piece of content that we know works, where we're saying, oh, we can see that you're shopping for rentals. Here's a checklist of things you need to do to sort of be super ready to rent. Place like Seattle, where rent is super competitive. It's very hard to get into an apartment. We've got people moving into the city all the time, so we want to help people be as ready as possible. So a renter checklist is something that we know works. But beyond that, what is it renters want from us? Is it information about how to make your space better? Is it information about how to prepare to buy a home? In some cases, yes, and in some cases, no. What we've learned recently is not every renter wants to know about how to buy a home. There are people who are perfectly happy renting and might want to rent for life. So how do we then sort of fork what we give those groups just based on their engagement? This Rising Water story, it was a story done by our PR team, but was super interesting to people. Coastal cities obviously are impacted by climate change and rising water, and so this was a story for renters that we thought was impactful. 10 most popular cities for renters is about sort of where people are moving. In renters, that's more of a sort of a broad news story. But again, this is sort of, what is it renters want from us in the times when they're not actually shopping?
So now you're engaged in, and we've got only a few minutes left, so I want to make sure that we get to the point about the resources when it comes to content.
Yeah.
You've got a real challenge here now in terms of the number of audiences you're serving, the different mindsets that you have to serve, and the fact that you have to serve them a lot of content in order for this to work, because this is a complicated sell,
right.
In essence.
Yeah.
So tell us about where you are in terms of how you are allocating resources, how you're getting the content that you need, and where you need to go from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, resourcing is an issue for us across the board. We're just in super high growth mode right now. And I mentioned this great relationship we have with the content team. That's very true. They are creating and executing content on behalf of the entire Zillow brand, and in some cases, our family of brands are helping out with that. And so email, again, is one of the many things on their list. And so as we expand beyond this sort of one-size-fits-all marketing and say, oh, we want to test these 5 things to who we think are the sellers, or these 6 things to renters, how does all of that get generated is a real issue. And so we try to, again, put on your mini engineering hat, put on your pick up your mini writing quill, I guess. And so my team is pretty scrappy. As we build out kind of new workflows for people in these new buckets, as we start to expand these consumer personas, how much of that can we take on ourselves and, write an email? And yes, we should have an editor look at it, but...
And right now, all of this testing is manual, right?
Yes.
You're creating all of this yourself, so you need to look towards much more automated systems.
Yeah, I mean, eventually what we look for are what works and how can we scale that appropriately in automation. As I mentioned, our charter is about, sort of better serving these personas, specifically in the coming year, and then we worked really hard to get my team the right tools so that they can do that. Build out very fast workflows. Kristen was talking about just how fast buckets can be segmented. So we're using some tools that help us go fast now.
I want to get to some questions, so think about a few questions. Let's see if we could zip over to our takeaways and talk about some of the main things that you've
All right.
learned in this process.
Lots of content. I'm happy to talk about it. All right, so these are some of the things that we try to keep in mind. Also, this is shameless plug for Santa's House on Zillow. It's just a fun little marketing campaign we just did, so check it out if you haven't. Sorry. It's really cute.
What's the valuation on that, by the way?
In the mid sixes, there is there is a value on
By the way, as we said, we're looking.
Yeah, I don't know what the margin of error is on this one, but I do on some. So some of the things we try to keep in mind, across Zillow, we work on a fail fast mentality, and so along the lines of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks is like, well, don't be afraid to really try anything and take a big swing or a little swing or whatever. If it doesn't work, fine, pivot and try something else. I've stolen this cope idea from a partner on the content team, and so the idea that maybe some of these resources do exist already, and so this idea of create once, publish everywhere, we know there's a lot of content available to us. We just sort of have to figure out where it is and pick it up and run with it.
Especially the social teams, right? Are
Yes.
often a lot of stuff's getting generated there.
Yeah, beautiful
that you don't even
nuggets
know about.
of content from our social team, and the always be testing is very important. Obviously, a couple people yesterday talked about more disciplined testing. That's definitely something that we need to be better at. You know, don't just put an emoji in the subject line to see what works, but control versus lift and what's your goal. All of that, I'd like to see us do more of. Thoughtful personalization gets at the idea of like, not everything is sort of awesome. If we have a first name, it doesn't necessarily make it better that we might use it in an email. So what do we actually know about you, and how can we be useful is what we're aiming for.
And what not to use.
Right.
I mean, you've got a ton of data.
Yeah, we're sitting
people,
on
and
a
you're
lot
not-
of stuff.
You're not showing them you're not going to send them an email that shows them what their monthly mortgage payment is.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Ooh.
Right.
Yeah.
So what
don't want
not
us
to
to- yeah.
what not to tell somebody you know about
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
as important.
This idea of get more out of less is just about sort of not, how can we scale, you know, 12 million people is not necessarily better than 2 million people if you're getting more out of the 2 million people on a more frequent basis. And so look for efficiencies definitely rather than just big numbers that don't necessarily mean anything. The Be Scrappy, the WYOE is just write your own email, which is we do a lot of, and then maybe to the chagrin of our friends in content, but we have them look at it, obviously. And then the Be Engineerish is just something that my team tries, you know, write tools and sort of write data and the right sort of frame of mind to like ship. Like that's, you know, what we talk about at Zillow is like ship quickly and fast and move fast. And so ship anything and see what works. And then try to figure out how to scale that stuff.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much, Tara.
Thank you.
We have time for questions. Anybody have any questions of Tara?
I'm happy to chat more too.
Hold on.
Oh.
I got you here. Hold on.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm from Schubert. I asked a question yesterday. So your challenge of not actually knowing what people's transactional activity is something that we also deal with. And you mentioned a few ways that you try to collect this information, but I kind of just wanted to hear you selfishly go into that just like a little bit more in terms of things you tried to, is it all like volunteer, kind of getting people to volunteer information? What things have you done that worked and what didn't work?
As they move from sort of stage to stage, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit relying on data that like my team doesn't always have, you know, if, and I should say we're big and everyone's going 100 miles an hour, and so the data is not always in the right spot, right? You know, it's not always in the like a helpful bucket where I want it to be. It might be that someone was a super active shopper in our emails, and then we've lost them, and then maybe that person keeps coming back to the same page, the same home on Zillow, and then maybe we start to figure out that home was listed 6 months ago is no longer listed, and so that's maybe an indication. You know, like this is signed in users again, obviously, but a person displaying interest in a specific home that used to be for sale and isn't for sale anymore might be like, okay, do you own this home? So that was an example of like popping that. You know, are you the owner? On the email side. we can start to test that. Like, it's a combination a little of the data we have. We know that Seattle's a hot market, and so can we start to siphon out the people there that might be thinking about selling just by testing content in the Seattle market in general? So it's really just trying to figure out any way that we can sort of appropriately target people and sort of flag them with these new kind of targeting buckets. We can talk more too. I'm happy to. Yeah.
And Tara's here today and tomorrow. Thank you very much, Tara Clark.
Sure. And those that raise their hand, come find me. I'm happy to
I'm
answer.
sorry, did I miss something?
Right.
Please.
We have a couple more.
time.
We have a
No,
couple
we
more
have time.
questions, but
I'm sorry. Let's go ahead.
Well, Ryan, you're so far away from me. There's no way I'm coming up there. Speak loud.
It's him.
I
Forget
can
it.
repeat
We're
it
good.
too.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Ryan from Desert. So, do you have a problem with the creepy data problem, right? Having too much, you kind of got into it the last thing, but
Yeah.
because homeowners kind of assume that all that information is public, you've got to have some data that's not necessarily public that they don't expect you to have. Do you get into that creepy data problem of pulling back and going, ooh, I made it be too much?
We have spirited debates and discussions about, what is useful versus like what is creepy versus not. So yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. Everyone sort of theoretically knows that all their information is out there, but when they see it presented back to them, that's when I think it's like, whoa, why do you have that data?
There's knowing and there's knowing.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you avoid that by saying what the source is?
So on Zillow itself, like on the website, all the source of the county data and everything is there. We don't do that in email, but we try it when we're surfacing information. Like we're very careful about being super creepy about it. So yes, yeah, it's a judgment call, but a lot of people thinking about exactly what you're getting at.
Was there another one that I missed?
I think we're good.
We're good? Tara, thanks again.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you.
This is great.
Hey, Steve, I got a quick announcement.
Yes,
Real quick.
go ahead.
Okay, so raise your hand if you did not get one of the amazing eData Source bags. Ryan, okay, we can see one. And don't cheat because there's only so many. We only have so many. So if you got one and you're getting one for your Christmas holiday gift, whatever. Yeah, okay, so raise your hand again, sorry, so I can count. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. MediaPost people don't count. 7. Okay. Some of you, GB, received a card with your bag. If you received a card with your bag, fill that out and give it to Arthur. Where's Arthur? Arthur right here, because he's got something to give you back, which is in the form of money, cash. Ooh, look at that exchange right there. Hey, that happened. So if you got the card, fill it out, give it to Arthur at some point. If you did not get a bag, go out front and tell Jun Mien, and we will get you a bag before you leave this conference. Okay. That's all I got, sir. Take it away.
Thank you, John. Let me ask Stephen and our panel to come up on acquisitions. As I mentioned earlier today, we're drilling into tactics. We, obviously by nature, we tend to talk about CRM, loyalty, existing customer base when we talk about email. But as we started the show with yesterday, in that poll of marketers recently, email is still seen at the top of the heap when it comes to acquisitions. So we wanted to spend a session just talking about some of the tactics that are being used in using email and leveraging the data that email provides to expand the customer base. To take the lead on this panel, we have Stephen Driscoll, who's the VP of Digital Member Experience at AARP. Stephen, you've been at AARP since 2005, is that right? That's right. In a number of roles at AARP. Please welcome Stephen to the panel.
Thank you. Again, Stephen Driscoll. I'm with AARP and lead our email operations there, amongst other things. But excited to be here and want to introduce our panel. So here today we have George DeGuido with About.com, Emily Geist with Rodale, and Michael Reese with Western Union. And I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves a little bit more fully.
Great. So I'm George DeGuido. I work at About.com. We're a ad-supported content publisher. I run email strategy for the business. I've been there just about 3 years now. Prior to that, I was at Airbnb, and then on the vendor side at ESPs like Bigfoot Interactive, Zeta Interactive. So I've been around email for a whole bunch of years.
Hi, I'm Emily Geis from Rodale. I handle primarily the commerce email deployment at Rodale. Not many people know us by Rodale. They know us by our brands. We have brands like Men's Health, Women's Health, Prevention Magazine. But we don't just have magazines. We have books and DVD content as well. I've been at Rodale a long time. I kind of hesitate to even say. I've been there for 16 years. So it definitely has been a long time that I've been there in various roles, though.
And I'm Michael Reese. I work for Western Union. We're a worldwide money transfer service. Specifically, my role is the manager of CRM and loyalty at Western Union for the U.S. region. And I also work on our prepaid card on the digital and the retail side of that prepaid card business.
So obviously, we have several different businesses represented in different business models. So want to kind of start with the high level and have each of you talk a little bit about just broadly how your business thinks about acquisition. And let's talk about it both in terms of your business acquisition, but also specifically about email acquisition. Do you want to start, Michael?
Sure. As far as Western Union goes, we push money around the world. So as far as acquiring customers, my main role is getting new people in the door that will send money to their family, to their friends, and use our services. For email specifically, we try a variety of tactics, from digital display to list purchases. I mean, we've done a variety of different things in the past, but for us, the main goal is getting people in the door that will actually make a transaction and become a sticky consumer for our brand. Customers around if you think about, I guess if you're put yourself in the customer's shoes and you're getting inquired or you're getting bombarded with emails or content, and it's like a random, you didn't ask for that. It's kind of like, why am I getting this content? Why are people sending me this? I didn't ask for this. So kind of, we've been looking at ways to find customers that will opt into us and self-opt in and say, hey, I want to hear from you, not just we pick a random list of people and they have no idea that why we're reaching out to them or that we have their email address. So we've found using ways where customers can self-opt into our marketing has been really successful for us in finding new customers for our brand.
Great. Emily?
I mean, obviously, Rodale will try to acquire customers right off the bat. Someone acquired through a purchase is obviously going to be more valuable down the road for lifetime value purposes. But the bigger portion of our email acquisition is we definitely leverage our content. About half the volume we send out at Rodale is newsletter volume, purely content. So we do kind of open that funnel up pretty big so that we can get as many people into the content and commerce funnel at the same time to go ahead and get them into a purchase activity. We definitely, email acquisition's a big hot button. Email right now is our biggest online channel, so we definitely need to feed it because we, have understood the value of that in the past and have had some challenges that we've had to overcome there.
And in terms of pushing that content, is that primarily across your own properties, or are you also going out to, pushing it on social or other properties where you're acquiring customers as well?
It's all in-house content across all of our brands, but it'll definitely be across multiple channels, including social.
Great. George?
So for us at About.com, we are 100% of our email volume is newsletter based. We don't sell anything. All of our content is free. It's not behind a paywall. You can come to the site and consume content as much and as often as you'd like. So from a business kind of customer acquisition perspective, we're trying to get our voice out there, and that's in the form of content. So search obviously is a big driver of traffic for us. Email and social are also big drivers. So from an acquisition standpoint, we speak with our content. So we try to provide great content. It's more evergreen in nature. It's not your breaking news, or you're not coming to us versus a CNN or things like that. But if you're coming to us, you're coming to, hey, I have this leaky faucet. I need to learn how to fix it. Or, hey, I need to understand a little bit more about economic policy in general, things like that. You'll likely end up on About.com or one of our properties. I used to say About.com is the place you always end up, but never know you're there. You usually come to us via a search or things like that. But in the last 6 months, we've done a lot of different things around rebranding ourselves and reimagining what About.com is in the function of new vertical brands that we've recently launched. So we've just launched Very Well, which is our health and wellness site. We've launched The Balance, which is our personal finance and financial services site. We just recently launched LifeWire, which is a technology site. and all focused around providing great content to users so that they keep coming back. And email is one of those vehicles that we use as a retention vehicle to, once you're on our site, keep you coming back for more and exposing you to all the great content that we have on the site. From an email acquisition perspective, we do a large amount of traffic just via search and other kind of paid sources. So we do a lot of things to try to capture you once you're on site. But we're also looking to external sources to go out and find people who would benefit from our content and putting our brand in front of those eyeballs.
I'd like to have each of you address maybe 2 points real quick. One is just, can you tell everybody your best activity or channel for acquiring emails? And then secondly, talk a little bit about the mix that you have between organic acquisition and paid acquisition.
I'll start with that one. That's an interesting question. Our best source of acquisition is our site, but we also use a third party to help us acquire those users on site. So we use Bounce Exchange from an on-site acquisition perspective through the use of interstitials and a few other newer technologies that we're implementing with them. That source of acquisition is by far our most profitable from an ROI perspective. I can't talk specific numbers, but in less than 90 days, we recoup our expense for that on-site acquisition. And for a content publisher who is ad-supported, that's a huge benefit for us to be able to recoup that cost in such a short time frame. So on-site is probably our most profitable, but there's a limit to how often you can serve an interstitial or put your message in front of someone on-site before getting too annoying and things like that. So we look to external sources to scale out and kind of look at other opportunities. We use Fluent from an acquisitions perspective to help drive new users to our newsletters, and that has been hugely beneficial to the program for us as well.
Great. Emily?
So let me just take a couple steps back. Rodale, 4 years ago, the biggest way we acquired our email addresses was through a newsletter sign-up box on our own branded sites. Over the years, and I heard everyone talk about it yesterday, is, when numbers are down, they come to the email team and say, send more. Rodale is certainly not alone in that space, except until we got to the point where we were no longer acquiring enough new people to counter the people that we were losing on the back end of our file due to unsubscribes and mark spam complaints and things like that. That definitely was an eye-opening moment for Rodale, and it caused us to shift more of the focus to say, okay, if we're going to continue to mail at the frequency, we need to ramp up our email acquisition to bring that number up so that we're countering the number of email addresses that are rolling off the file. At that point, similar to as George mentioned, we started leveraging a third party. Bounce Exchange is who we leverage as well, very selectively on our site. So when you will get the pop-up overlay, or at least when we started, is when you are starting to track, like you're going to leave our site. So for the most part, you've already been on our site, you've been browsing, you've gone through your multiple page views, and now you're going to leave. That's when we're going to pop up an offer for a free PDF for the 14 best ab exercises or something like that, in which we capture that email address. By far, that is our biggest acquisition source right now. We still do have newsletter capture boxes on all of our sites. We do dabble with some sweepstakes, some barter sweepstakes and things like that, but smaller scale compared to Bounce Exchange. But we're also challenging that. What's the next new big acquisition? Tool that we should go ahead and leverage. So, there's things out there, content gates, paid walls. George mentioned that as well. We definitely need to think of what's the next big thing that's going to entice someone to give us their email address so that we can go ahead and monetize them down the road.
Great. Michael, did you want to address that question also?
Yeah, for us, on the acquisition side, a lot of our customers come through our website, and particularly our mobile app is what we've been pushing a lot the last year. Moving to next year, mobile is a big focus for us. Specifically, we use a lot of social media to do some lookalike modeling, some retargeting to kind of acquire customers that way as well. Organically, we are also focusing a lot on our lapsed customers, so the people that have fallen off the base. How do we get those people to come back and transact with us? So when we notice that we haven't seen them in 6 to 12 months, we start a win-back program for them, offering them discounts on our services and products in order to get them to come back and do a transaction with us. Because once we get them back on the active track, we can push them to do further transactions and be part of our active base again. As far as other channels of acquisition, like George said, we also use Fluent to acquire customers through their self-opt-in model, which has been really successful for us. We saw a 16 times increase in opens and engagement with the customers that we got through that platform. So that was really beneficial to kind of growing our database and helping reach more customers. For our model in particular, though, since we transfer money from the U.S. outside of the country as well, finding customers that are from like Nigeria or from China specifically, like we kind of run into a struggle to find those right customers and are trying to acquire those customers outside of our organic, just word of mouth and kind of refer a friend that we have at Western Union. So that's one thing we're working on next year is to acquire more customers that will be able to expand on our international corridors, because that's a big focus for us as well.
Let's shift a little bit to talk about quality versus quantity of acquisition. And Emily, you kind of alluded to the pressures that you get as far as ramping up acquisition, but we all know that often comes at the expense of quality. So can you talk a little bit about how you go about, whether you go about measuring that, whether it's different by channel or source, and the trade-offs that you make along the way?
It is definitely a huge challenge. As I mentioned earlier, the most profitable person or email address that we can acquire is someone that comes in the door as a customer, immediately purchases from our brand. But we all know that that's a tiny number when we're looking at email. What we do is we look over, the first year on file, and we look to see what is the monetization of an email address during that time frame. Our second best, most lucrative portion of our database are the people that come to our sites and actively sign up for those newsletters. Bounce Exchange, the quality there is very high as well. And when we start to get into other sources like sweepstakes, there's definitely a drop-off in quality. Sometimes it's a quantity game, and sometimes I would definitely always want high-quality names, but you have to balance it with, if you're only getting, a very small number of high-quality names, it might be better off getting 10 times that many that aren't quite as valuable.
And when you look at that one-year monetization, is that a figure that you use then to determine how much you're willing to invest in some of the paid campaigns?
Or it gives us the brand to focus on. Since Rodale has so many brands, we know that a prevention acquired email address is worth the most to us. We have the most products in that category. So if we're going to invest in a new acquisition channel, we're not going to say, hey, let's do it for Bicycling Magazine. Because although those people are very enthusiastic and very profitable, we don't have a whole product suite for them. So we'll focus our efforts where it's most lucrative for us in the long run.
And just sticking with you for a second, Emily, when you acquire that address, is that across those properties, is that person opting in to receive information across all properties, or do you focus on narrow? Have you tested the difference in doing so?
Over the years, we have had various different permissioning structures. Our corporate stance right now is universal permissioning, so when you come in via one brand, you are permissioned for all of our brands. That's not to say that we promote you for all of our brands, but just that we have the permission to go ahead and be able to do that. It definitely gives us the ability to maximize our cross-promotional opportunity, especially with brands like Women's Health and Prevention. Although our brands won't actively admit it, the online women's health customer is very similar to the online prevention customer. They're about 47, so if we can't cross-promote between those two categories, that's definitely handcuffing us for the future.
George, how do y'all think about quality versus quantity?
So we definitely take quality over quantity, for sure. If there's one thing that I look at more than anything, it's my analytics dashboards around acquisition. Data is critical, and I'm sure the vendors that I work with out in the room will verify this, but I don't spend a dime without knowing exactly how much that dime is going to get back for me when I spend it. and I am on the phone with those vendors when those needles start to drop, I'm figuring out what's going wrong with those acquisition funnels and what the issue is. Is there something wrong with the technology? Are we including new sources? So understanding what you're spending and where you're spending it and what's coming in via that source is critical for us. So we only choose to invest when those ROI numbers make sense to us. So, you know, off the top of my head, I could probably tell you the ROI windows for every one of the properties that we have an active paid acquisition strategy for. And I think that's critically important for anybody who's looking at paid acquisition to understand that. Otherwise, you are just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. And there's a place for that in testing to make sure that you're getting the right mix and seeing what works. But if at the end of the day, you don't have what that it represents to you from a monetary perspective, you're just wasting money from that perspective. And for us, it's, you know, we're a data-driven organization, so data is first, and then we look to spend off of that information.
Great. And Michael, any thoughts on quantity versus quality?
For us, as far as paying to acquire new customers, we always focus on quality over quantity. We have to get the right people in the door that will actually transfer and be a positive ROI for us. On the loyalty side specifically, though, we also look at quantity for that channel because our loyalty program, we're trying to sign up all the customers that do transaction with us, one, because it's a benefit to them. They'll be earning rewards, points, and having a positive relationship with us because when they send money, they get points, and they can use that to redeem for rewards. But on the other side, we want to actually grow that base and make sure, my job is to make sure everyone we have an email address for is part of our loyalty program. And we want to increase that those signups because the people that are loyalty members are actually higher ROI for us. They spend more money with us. They redeem rewards and kind of are a strong 3 times the. We see those customers as 3 times the value of a customer that is not part of a loyalty program. So as far as loyalty goes, we're trying to sign up quality or quantity, but as far as acquisition, we look for quality in that area.
Emily, you talked a little bit about the permissibility issue as far as being able to use the address across brands. How much upfront do you set that expectation? Is there language that goes along with it when somebody signs up, or how explicit are you about what you're promising to the individual?
I mean, it's firmly disclosed in our privacy policy. We're probably not as upfront as our brand managers would hope. But again, we do focus. I was talking yesterday that we just launched a new email segmentation strategy that is really giving the ownership of the names acquired via brand to that brand. So we're really working to make sure that high percentage of the promotions they see are from the brand that acquired them, which makes sense. But when you have things like if a brand like bicycling does acquire a 47-year-old female, I can guarantee you that in our old structure, they would have seen more prevention and women's health promotions than they would see bicycling just because of sheer products in the categories. So we've kind of said that's not okay. Customer first is the approach at Rodale right now. So, and I don't think it's ever going to change. So we definitely have shifted things to go ahead and more like, okay, our universal permissioning structure is okay, but now we want to make sure that we're acting appropriately from the customer perspective.
Broad permission, but judicious use. Yes. George, Michael, do you both also capture permission broadly, or do you use any narrow opt-ins to capture emails?
Yeah, we're very narrow in our focus around this specific title. So for a brand like Verywell, there's 13 different newsletters that we offer underneath that brand. So we need to be very specific because the user base for each one is distinctly different. So someone signing up for a diabetes newsletter may not need our pregnancy email, right? They might, but we can't make that assumption when you're talking about something as important as health. So we can't make those connections just based on the type of newsletters that we offer. So we're very strict in terms of you're signing up for our Real Life with Diabetes newsletter, and then sure, we'll show you opportunities to sign up for our other categories, but we're not going to use that permission across all of our content.
Michael.
And for us, we kind of focus on 2 main products here in the U.S. So there's really not a lot of difference between the two. We kind of do a lot of cross-sell between our bill payments customers and our money transfer customers. So we don't really specify as far as the channel. We don't have like multiple different brands that we can focus on per se. So we kind of do a lot of cross-sell across both to try and push both products and have customers use them both equally.
About 2 years ago, when we shifted our email program to, when we acquire email addresses, we now do confirmed opt-in, or what some people call double opt-in. Can you all talk a little bit about whether or not you use confirmed opt-in, or what your sort of next step is once you acquire that address, and how that ties back to your acquisition strategy? I'll let you go, George.
We send them email as soon as we get their name in. So we don't confirmed opt-in. We definitely take a look at their health once we do acquire them, and that really ties back to that ROI number. So we're looking at open rates, we're looking at click-through rates, but for us, we're not selling anything. There's no, hey, you've just purchased this product, or hey, you've just signed up for this service. No, we want you on the site reading and engaging with our content and our ads. So we look at open click-through sessions, page views as our determining metrics. But we want you as a hand raiser to get into the program as fast as possible. If there's one area that we need to work on in 2017 is that onboarding process and bringing you into the programs. But for us, we just start mailing you as soon as possible and start trying to recoup that investment.
Emily?
Confirmed opt-in, that would be the holy grail. I think we'd all love to do that. We'd all feel better about what we do if we could do that. But let's face it, we've all done testing that you only get a fraction of the people that you actually acquire the email addresses on to go ahead and complete the confirmed opt-in process. So it's not something that we currently do now. We do pretty much, as George said, we start mailing them right away. For the most part, in almost all brands, we're starting with a welcome message, and some brands are more defined than others, but working through an onboarding series so that we start to warm them up and introduce them to the brand and tell them all the things about the brand that we think are important, whether it's highlighting social, highlighting our site, and those kind of things before we kind of dig into, hey, here's a product. Some brands, their onboarding is purely a welcome letter from the editor-in-chief. Other ones, it may be a series of 3 or 4 or 5. Others may go on for 14 days, but still have commerce efforts mixed in there.
So pretty specific to the source.
Yeah.
Michael, anything y'all do that way?
For us, as far as like welcome messaging or kind of confirming, we don't, like Emily and George said, we don't do the confirm emails, but we do start messaging them immediately. And for our loyalty program, that is kind of defined by welcoming them to the program, explaining the benefits and the rewards, and then pushing them through an onboarding journey to allow them to transact, find out more information about the rewards that we offer. And then we also allow them to, from the non-loyalty side, we start emailing them and asking them to transact with us. Because based upon your transaction history, if you sign up on our website and do an online transaction, you become part of the loyalty program automatically. So for those customers that might not understand that they were automatically registered for MyWoo, we do an onboarding program for them to let them know, you're part of this program now, you're earning points, there's benefits to this for you. Every time you transact, you will be rewarded for doing transactions with us. So that's kind of how we push people through the funnel there.
Yeah, thinking about the top of the funnel, anything that y'all can share as far as success stories or surprises in the past 6 or 12 months that you've done that, whether it's a new channel or new tactic that you've done that it's really proven out?
If I say it first, then you got to come up with something else. Definitely our overlay capture with Bounce Exchange. That was definitely a game changer. I don't think everyone was hesitant, which is why we only committed to doing it upon perceived site exit. Which at that point, everyone on the site teams and the brand teams were like, well, from an advertising perspective on our sites, we've already monetized as much as we're going to do. So it's more of a save at that point in time. So we were able to get easier buy-in there and paid off leaps and bounds. So that is the one thing. On the flip side, I think, if you're ever entertaining risky email acquisition channels, and I think we've probably all been there, e-append is there. Definitely, you've got to balance risk-reward. I think, the Rodale stance is too risky right now. We've done it in the past. We have a huge, in the past we've had a huge direct mail business, so we've got a lot of buyers sitting on our file with no email address. But it's kind of hands-off. We're not touching that because it's too risky. We send from too many brands to introduce that risk to potentially shut down all of our brands. So that's something that we're not even, like, whenever we get the question, hey, should we go ahead and look at email? Yeah, pen. Oh, no. We have enough data to back it up, so.
Michael or George, any success stories to share?
For us on the prepaid side, we do a lot of acquisition through the website for the prepaid card. So Netspin is our partner for our prepaid program, and through their various networks of other cards, we're able to funnel in new customers for the Western Union branded card specifically. And as that's one of our new money transfer channels, you can use the card to send and receive money transfers. We've seen a lot of success in bringing new customers and having cross-sell from the Netspin portfolio, which has been really beneficial to the Western Union brand as well.
So for us, we've launched 3 brands in the last 6 months, and if you go to those brands, what you'll see is that there's really no on-site email capture. When we launched, there was a lot of concern around search and making sure the site redesign worked well with Google and other search engines. So we really pared down the page and removed a lot of the extraneous pieces, and unfortunately, email capture was a part of that. We're starting to reintroduce that now, and we're taking a cautious approach to do that, as Emily mentioned, around things like interstitials and kind of injecting ourselves into the customer experience while they're on their site. But one thing that we've launched recently, and we're still testing with, is a mobile acquisition unit that allows the user to basically tap this banner, and what happens is the user gets prompted to send us an email. So the email client opens on mobile. They don't have to fill anything out. They just have to hit the send button, sends us an email, and signs them up for a newsletter. It's been hugely successful for us because not only are we getting signups on mobile where someone doesn't have to fat finger in their email address, but we're likely getting the primary email address for that particular user because it's tied to their mobile device. So twofold, it's done really well for us in the past few weeks that we've launched it. We're continuing to optimize. We're continuing to look at ways to improve that experience. But we've gone from getting 0 signups on mobile to getting signups on mobile, which is a huge success story for us.
And what about social channels? Any successes through social channels?
We've had some success, but not at the scale through on our branded sites. But we're definitely posting a lot of content on social. We'll go ahead and drive to our own sites and capture the email address there. But again, it's not scalable yet. We haven't figured that out quite yet.
And similar for us, the scale is an issue for us as well, but we do a lot of refer a friend and kind of word of mouth posting through social media that allows us to have our customers kind of be our brand ambassadors and kind of help us acquire new customers that might have the need for our businesses, our products and services as well. So we've used social for kind of more refer a friend to acquire new people through that, and then we also do lookalike modeling, which has been pretty successful for us as well.
Yeah, and we're just starting to kind of do the lookalike modeling that Michael mentioned. Social hasn't been, extremely successful for us from a paid standpoint. The CPA is just not where we need it to be successful in that particular channel right now. But in our communities, in our new brands and things like that, we're seeing a lot more success in that, and we're tying newsletter franchises around those social communities to kind of build and foster that community, and that's proven well for us, but it's the scale play right now. It's just not big enough for us to really put a whole lot of effort in, but it's something that will emerge in 2017 for us, I'm sure.
Yeah, Emily, you mentioned the issue with appending addresses, and we certainly share your viewpoint there that that's too risky. But one thing we see is that we have both offline records where we don't have emails and we'd like to have them, but we also have emails where we don't necessarily know who that email belongs to, whether or not they're, in our case, a member or not, or a customer or not. So certainly, we have a lot of tactics around progressive profiling. Can you all talk about whether or not you require any additional information when you capture the email, or whether you do additional progressive profiling to fill out that customer file?
We don't. We just require an email address. So a good chunk of our file is email address only. So that means we rely heavily on the brand that acquired them and when they were acquired. and like through what kind of offer acquired them. Other than that, we don't have a whole lot until they start to open and engage with our emails. We don't do a progressive profile, but it's something that we probably should consider because there are a lot of people we don't know anything about. Which definitely, until they start engaging with your brand, you don't know a whole lot to react to for them.
George or Michael?
For us, we capture first and last name with the email address. And then as far as getting more information, then we do keep a file and kind of help complete that file as they go through the customer journey with Western Union. Our loyalty program, like I mentioned before, is heavily relies on that information. So to fill out your customer profile, we'll ask for your address, your preferences, try to get as much data as we can on you so we can help push offers and rewards that would better resonate with that customer in particular. And if we have a customer that was automatically registered for our program, if they transacted online, we do follow-up emails to ask them to complete their profile. We're doing a pilot right now where we're giving them rewards to fill out their profile and kind of continue that customer journey to push them forward in our funnel.
So we don't ask for any additional information. All we ask for is the email address. We're starting to look at opportunities to add more to that file and more to the acquisition process as we get into different, more niche areas like HCPs for health and financial planners for our finance vertical. But one thing that we do on site is that once you start getting emails from us and come back to the site, we utilize Sailthrough as our ESP, and we're starting to build a profile of a user as they consume content, understanding what content they're visiting, how often they're visiting that particular type of content through the use of tags on our articles and things like that. So we're trying to build that profile to help personalize the newsletter experience for that user as we get down the road with them and can predict or show them content that they might more readily consume within the newsletter experience. We're just starting out with that from a personalization standpoint, but that is our hope in next direction, that we can somewhat streamline the number of newsletters that we send someone and just send them more of exactly what they want across a broad spectrum of topics.
Great. With about 5 minutes left, I wanted to pause for a minute and just see if there are folks in the audience who'd like to throw a few questions at the panel as well. Up front, and I can repeat the question if that's easier.
My question is for Emily, since you have. Kay Kerman, Children's Medical Center. My question is for Emily, and it has to do with that you have so many brands, and you talk about how if you opt in for one, it shares with all the others. If I am a female bicyclist, age 47, and I really don't want women's health, is there a way for me to opt out of the Women's Health magazine and just get the bicycling? And what does your preference center look like?
We definitely have a robust preference center that you could go in and definitely opt out of the brands that you're not interested in. So we definitely, absolutely offer that, and that's on the bottom of all of our outgoing emails, that you could go ahead and modify your preferences there.
Emily, since you have both free and paid products, I mean, you have vast newsletter lists. How are you prioritizing that? I mean, when it comes to an acquisition strategy, you could probably harvest enormous numbers of emails for your newsletters, but obviously your margins and your interests may be greater for converting them to paying customers. So how do you prioritize that and work with those other digital teams that just would love to blow up their newsletter subscriptions?
So for the most part, how we acquire is through a newsletter sign up. So when they sign up for the newsletter, they're signed up for that newsletter. And when I say they get permission for all of the brands, it's all of the brands from a commerce perspective. So upon that newsletter sign up, I get authorization to mail them from a commerce perspective as well. I don't want to say the newsletter teams can do what they want because they kind of own those lists. They all have varying frequency and things like that. But in terms of any email frequency capping and things of that nature, we do cap on the commerce side of it, but not the newsletter side. So if you are actively raising your hand and saying you want a bicycling training newsletter, we will send it to you whenever we have content there. Whereas commerce, obviously they're not hand raisers there, so we have to be a bit more careful about how frequently we mail them.
Any others? Both Emily and I think George, you were shaking your head anyway. Earlier we were talking about sweeps, and we employ sweeps as well and find a lot of success in that. But that's one of those channels that can come with some quality issues as well. But can you talk a little bit about your philosophy on sweeps? Maybe I'll start with George.
We don't do them. No,
Sorry.
well, we've done them. We've gotten a huge amount of quantity in terms of signups, but the quality just isn't there. The return on investment, though, if we do a barter or things like that, it might not be extremely expensive to do, but on the backside, in terms of emailing these folks and messaging to them, they just don't engage once the contest is over and they have not won. So for us, it's not worth it. We've seen deliverability hits. We've seen our rates drop, obviously, because we influx the number of people we're sending to who are not engaging. So for us, we haven't found that sweepstakes sweet spot yet, where we can find the quality people at a cheaper cost via a sweepstakes. Maybe we haven't found the right partners yet, but for us, it just hasn't been successful in the past. So we don't do them, we don't seek them out, but we will entertain them if a partner were to come to us and talk about doing something around sweepstakes.
We do some. We have probably a couple brands that are more valuable, more from an advertising perspective, that people would want to come in and do sweepstakes with us. Again, it's not a big percentage. So while it's not a big percentage, even though it's lower quality, because we do get a lot of names through it, we are doing it. When we do it for some of our smaller brands like bicycling, those are actually pretty high quality names. There's not a whole lot of difference between those names and the names we would typically normally acquire. But more with our general interest publications, it's definitely not as quality. I mean, personally, if somebody emailed me and told me I won, I wouldn't believe it. Like, hey, want a trip to Costa Rica? I'd be like, yeah, right, delete. Personally, I wouldn't sign up for it, but so.
Michael, have you already
For us, as far as sweepstakes go, we tend to see a lot of engagement when we do a sweepstakes. I mean, everyone likes to win something. We see email open rates spike, and it's really nice to see that, but we want to continue that path. So for us, from a strategy perspective, on the loyalty side, when we want to do a sweepstakes, we want to tie that back to something that will give us benefit as a company as well. So if you want to enter the sweepstakes, you need to send a transaction, you need to sign up for our program, give us some information, kind of tie that to something transactional for us as well. So it's kind of a win-win for everyone. So that's kind of the way we approach sweepstakes. At our loyalty program, we do a lot of sweepstakes throughout the year and kind of code our specific opportunities and kind of initiatives. But we always try to tie that back to either doing a transaction, giving us more data, referring a friend, giving us something that we can kind of monetize on our end to make it worth it.
We have another question back here.
Great.
Morgan Stewart from Trendline Interactive. George, you had mentioned looking at the numbers and having dashboards for the different acquisition companies. My question is, are those dashboards you're looking at integrated across those vendors? And if not, how do you ensure that the metrics that are being reported back to you are consistent so you can actually successfully compare kind of apples to apples?
Yeah, that's a good question. They are. Fortunately for us, they are. Because we're acquiring those through maybe an external source, we're able to track that by those sources passing us the data of, okay, this came from social, this came from third party, this came from on-site. So we've set up the acquisition funnel to ensure that that source comes through to us. And then we track that source once the user gets an email on-site as well. So we're tying it back from source to the email, to the site activity, and then bringing those metrics back into a centralized dashboard where we can then report based on source and by campaign. So it's not just, okay, source A has ROI of X, Y, and Z. We can break it down by individual campaign to say, okay, our healthy eating has a 10 times quicker response rate from an ROI perspective than our diabetes content does. So we can make decisions based within each campaign of what we're acquiring for. For us, that was critical for us to get in place before really elevating our acquisition spend, because our CFO basically was like, until you can show me that these people are profitable, I'm going to hold the leash on the wallet. Once we're able to show those numbers and present them, those wallets and purse strings open up and we're able to spend more and acquire more. So it's really something that's critical for us to see by source. And sometimes we break it down even further by not just source, but the source that the source is using to acquire those addresses. So we tend to go a couple levels down as well so that we can identify different streams within the source that are working better than others.
Well, I want to thank Michael and Emily and George, the panel, and I think we're on to the next one.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, panel. And a reminder that Stephen's going to be running the roundtable at the end of the morning on this topic of acquisitions, and George is going to be running the roundtable on converting openers to loyalists. And I can't emphasize enough how much the roundtables really are the heart and soul of these summits. So take the time to engage in them because I think they'll pay back manyfold. A couple of announcements for afternoon activities. Those of you who haven't picked up your lift tickets for skiing and snowboarding, please go see Junmin about it. Those of you who are skiing, you're on your own to get to the slopes. Those of you who are snowboarding and tubing will meet at around 1:55 in the main lobby. Yesterday, just as eyes were rolling whenever we discussed IT departments, eyes were rolling and there was exasperation about attribution and how email plays within attribution. And that's what I wanted to do with our next panel. Let me bring Ross and our panel up. Obviously, email makes an impression no matter what happens, even if it's not opened. And as we move towards a multi-channel world, the problem of attribution and email's role in conversion in the end becomes much more complex. So we wanted to take a session here to focus on that topic, get some ideas for, even though attribution is still in its early stages for most marketers, the ways in which some marketers are at least trying to create models that work and how email plays a role. Leading this panel is our own Ross Fadner. He's the director of events here at MediaPost. He has covered a number of areas, social, video especially. Please welcome Ross and the panel.
Hello. Hi. Good morning. Thank you, Steve. So we're talking about attribution today, which is a subject that has come up several times already throughout the past couple days. So I'd like to begin our discussion right now by asking each of our panelists to describe who they are and what they do. Go ahead, Amir. Amir first.
Hey, my name is Amir Hussain Khadim. I work for Qatar Airways, and for the last 6 years, I've been managing their global email marketing program. I'm based in Doha, Qatar, so yes, I flew around 17 hours to get here. And I'm originally from Pakistan, so if you're wondering what this accent is, this is the Pakistani accent. And this is my first time at the Email Insider Summit. I'm loving it so far.
Great, thank you. Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm the Interactive Services Director at the Schubert organization. I'm responsible for all of our product management, for all of our software, as well as our digital marketing, although my focus is much more on the marketing operations and the data and analytics side of things than it is on content or messaging or anything like that.
Okay, great. Well, why don't we start by talking a little bit about how email is fitting into your marketing mix today at each of your organizations. Is it the most important digital channel for each of you? Go ahead, Amir. Let's go down one.
My department actually sits under the larger e-commerce department for us, and that's why we use generally email for anything that can be pushed on the QatarAirways.com on e-commerce side. But what we see is that a lot of our other customer-facing departments, even when fulfilling things offline, they want to or they're already sending out emails, just like Mark Scheinken mentioned yesterday. And we don't even know about them, and we're trying to rein them in through trying not to, by changing the organizational culture or organizational structure at least. Within the e-commerce strategy, email marketing plays a very important role. It's a heavy lifter for us. So much so the ROI is, it's gone through the roof. So we don't even mention the ROI number at times against the other channels because it makes the other channels look quite absurd actually. So,
yeah. Wow. Hey, there you go. Round of applause for that. That's great. Go ahead, Jennifer. It's a different story here.
Yeah, we have a different business model. So since we're a ticketing company, we serve as the cash register essentially for our clients who, in our case, are generally Broadway and off-Broadway shows. So the majority of the marketing that you would see for a Broadway or off-Broadway show is actually paid for by the production company, and they do a lot of television and and outdoor advertising, as well as email marketing, social, digital display, and so forth. We see our job as creating the infrastructure for them to do that in a smart and targeted way, and for them to be able to evaluate the ROI on their investment. So in terms of our own messaging that we put out under our brand name, really email is the only channel in which we do that. And it's partially to keep our list engaged and connected so that we can then send them discount offers for Broadway shows that the Broadway shows pay us to send.
Okay, great. So before we get to, I asked each of them to prepare a attribution flow model for us, just to give us show us an example of a customer's conversion path. Before we get to that, though, just give us a sense, each of you, of the different customer segments that you have, and how the customer journey can vary for each segment. I know you have a huge answer to that question.
Okay, no, so before I answer that, actually, I would like to step back and I missed the last part of your question, which was if email was the most important channel for us or not. While I talked about the ROI, I didn't talk about the. So for me and for our organization, I cannot say that email is the most important channel, or if any channel is the most important channel, because we clearly see that they all have their merits and they all have their sort of shortcomings as well. While email is great at generating demand, managing demand, it is definitely limited by the number of emails that we have and the permissions to send out the emails. Whereas search is great at managing demands, but it is limited by people actually searching for it. So we see merits to all two channels, and no one channel is the most important channel for us. They're all contributing towards the bottom line. However, the email address itself, just like it was said yesterday a couple of times, it is the new social security number for a lot of people. So it cuts across the channels now to build lookalike models, to build remarketing campaigns and all. Yeah, that was the answer to the first question, actually, if email is the most important channel for us or not. In terms of segmentation, it is really the backbone for our email marketing program. We're serving 150 plus destinations, around 90 plus countries, in 20 plus languages. And then we have the B2C customers, we have B2B customers that are agents with total different kind of message that we need to send to them. And on top of that, what cuts across all these segments is our frequent flyer program. So yeah, a lot of segmentation goes into that place for us. And as a matter of fact, we're seeing that more and more still, we're actually at the very top of the funnel in terms of the segmentation. So we really need to be looking at making some smarter segments, taking into consideration the customer behavior and all that.
So we think of segments in two different ways. I'll start with the way that we're successfully engaged in email marketing, and then I'll tell you the way that we're not and where we'd like to be a little more. So we segment our customers based on the types of shows that they buy. So we have, lists of email addresses of people who go to see cerebral plays and people who go to see things because there's like really famous Hollywood people in them, or like big blockbuster musicals. There's a lot of overlap between these groups, but we find that when we group our email addresses this way, we can send fairly relevant ticket offers to the various groups, family shows, stuff like that. The other way that we segment sorry, I should just step back for a second, and I apologize. I feel like I'm the altitude is getting to me, so I'm not quite as sharp as like I would normally be on a panel like this. But so if I'm speaking more slowly, one of the reasons we built these segments and started thinking about our customers this way was because we had thought that the shows who are designing their marketing campaigns were actually smart enough to think of this, and it turns out that they weren't, and they were just like constantly emailing everyone who lived in the tri-state area, and that segment of our email list was getting really tired. And so we basically put these like pre-packaged segments together based on taste and the style of shows that people were buying tickets to in an attempt to get the marketing agencies for the Broadway shows to actually think about their customer segments. So kind of pre-digesting it for them. The other way we think about segmentation is in terms of the sort of customer life cycle for buying a Broadway ticket. So there's always going to be people who, they live in New York, they go to Broadway a lot, they're like, let's see what shows have good seats this weekend. And they're like kind of a one website visit customer. They come, they might search for seats for a few different shows, and they purchase. And those customers we find are also pretty responsive to like a ticket discount offer. But then we definitely have customers who maybe they're planning a trip to New York, they do a lot of research, they go to lots of websites, they compare prices, they might even forget about comparing prices, they might first need to do some research on what shows are playing on Broadway and what might be interesting to them and so forth, and that can be a sort of 3-visit type customer. And then there's kind of a group in between. And I don't think our email program does a really good job of identifying which of the groups. We're a little bit more slapdash in terms of responding to a customer's shopping behavior with abandoned cart and so forth in an attempt to disguise the fact that we haven't really segmented customers email-wise into those 3 shopping groups.
Do you think that's like a function of kind of how you're set up, though, like in terms of the decentralized way that it's set up?
Yeah. Our decentralized, which you'll see in a second,
Right.
makes it very challenging because we only see just slices of a customer's Broadway browsing and shopping behavior. For sure, it's a challenge. So one that we have not yet solved yet.
So we'll get to this sort of now. We've got 2 very, well, you're both selling tickets, right? We've established that, that's great. But we have 2 very different attribution kind of model stories here, and that's what we're really talking about here today. So I'd like to invite Amir here to just take us through one example, and so you can go ahead and do that. I think we fire up his slide. Coming up.
Okay, so this is something that I slapped together last night. And the altitude sickness and all things, so don't judge me on that.
Also, he's got my branding behind it for reasons unknown, so just pretend there's no header.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
This is not sugar ticketing.
That's big.
That's interesting.
Okay.
It's definitely, well,
that
probably
depends. We are under tremendous cost pressures these days, so don't count us out in terms of the lower prices as well. But from US, of course, it's going to be a long haul, so that's not going to be working for you. So for us, this is a very short, small, happy path for a customer. So we start with the sort of a brand building, brand awareness kind of thing with the I don't know if you can read this. So it's ATL press releases. We depend a lot on that in terms of the brand awareness. We do all kinds of sponsorships. If you know, we currently have the sponsorship with the FC Barcelona. And then a lot of display in terms of the branding display goes into the brand awareness part, which leads us to the sort of, a lot of searches, a lot of display advertising, and ultimately to the website. Once they are on the website, they take either the flight search path or the content. So this is where the e-commerce versus content part is. If they go to the content pages, then we try to capture their email address over there through the on-site remarketing and then nurture them as a lead, ultimately leading them or pushing them towards a booking. If they go through the flight search path, they either do the booking or they drop off. If they are dropping off, we are reaching out to them with the cart recovery programs, the browse abandonment recovery programs. And if they book, they get into another program altogether, which is pre-travel, travel, post-travel, and then the pre-travel, travel, post-travel, and then I'm missing something, arrival. Yeah, so departure and arrival have been categorized as 2 different things. So at each of these touch points, we are employing different channels in terms of email and push, more push at this stage actually, but because the customer has actually booked with us and all, and they are on the move. So at this point in time, of course, email doesn't make that much of sense as compared to push. So yeah, that's sort of a very quick one of the customer journeys, one example, a happy path. Of course, there are a lot of slightly less happier path where a lot of other channels are interfering in between, but this is something that a normal customer would do.
Okay, great. Thank you, Amir. So before I get to questions about that, let's go through Jennifer's interesting attribution
Yeah,
story.
so our whole attribution is like a huge host of unhappy paths of lots of different intermediaries. So let's see here. All right, so we also have a similar life cycle to an airline in the sense that people buy in advance, and then there's the day that they're gonna go, in our case, to a show versus travel. But one of the advantages that an airline has that we don't have is that we never know everyone who's in our theater. So an airline always knows every single person who's on their flight because you have to register each traveler individually, and that's not the case when you buy event tickets. You might buy 4 tickets, and we don't necessarily know who the 3 people are that you're going with. And that's our biggest attribution challenge, because those 3 people may have seen emails, display ads, television ads that made them interested in going to that show with their friend, but their friend is the one who bought the tickets. So on these are all the pre-purchase touch points. So anything in red is stuff where we really just don't have any data on whether someone's been exposed to that touch point. Orange is where we have some data. It's not particularly integrated very well, and isn't very visible, but could be. And then yellow is where we know pretty much everything and we've got it integrated. So you can see the yellows are first-party emails that we send, first-party social shares, and then also we provide retargeting infrastructure for the shows. So we know if a show has purchased a retargeting campaign and who's been hit by it and whether they then come back to the site and so forth. But as you can see, unfortunately, that data feeds into 3 different databases. And the one that's in green is our ESP database, because over the years we've basically cobbled together a really rudimentary data warehouse that our ESP has kindly built for us, which we're looking to migrate away from, but that's really where it's all happening right now. So in terms of shopping and purchasing, there's so many channels where you can buy a Broadway ticket. There's resellers, there's, and by resellers, I mean like scalpers who are buying tickets and then marking them up 300% and giving us no customer information. There's the box office where you can basically buy tickets for cash and we have no idea if you've bought them or not. And then, of course, we have our website where we collect a ton of information. And then we also have distribution partners who use our API to sell tickets, and in that case, we have sort of partial information. So that's the the orange one that's up there. And again, feeds into 3 different databases, our web analytics database, our transaction database, and then the retargeting database. Now, luckily, we have built some connections between these databases. So the transaction database feeds into our ESP database, hence the sort of data warehouse nature of it. And then we use that data in our ESP to create some additional touch points, which is what we call our post-purchase series. It's very similar to what our friend from Live Nation described yesterday. I sat there listening and like nodding, yeah, we do that too. So basically everything he talked about yesterday, very similar to the touch points here in terms of getting people to engage before the day of the performance. And then when people get to our venue, we don't really have the kind of physical capacity to try to sell concessions and all that other stuff to make money. So we use the in-venue touch points as just a way of collecting data. So those 3 people that I mentioned before who didn't actually buy the ticket, we're basically trying to get them to log into Wi-Fi or use some other in-venue application so we can collect their information and ultimately try to tie them back to having seen an email or some trackable marketing. So in the venue, we've got digital signage, we've got Wi-Fi, we've got app-based services for concessions, or we're also working on some closed captioning for people who don't speak English or are hard of hearing. Those dotted lines are data connections that we haven't built yet, but we've planned. But we do get our Wi-Fi data into our ESP so that then after the show, the next morning, anyone who logged in on Wi-Fi, even if they didn't have a ticket purchase, they're receiving a post-performance email. And the engagement rate on those post-performance emails is really good as well. So then we're trying to, of course, tie those Wi-Fi logins back to people who were exposed to advertising. Unfortunately, we haven't made that connection yet. We're working on building a data warehouse, hopefully to launch sometime in 2017, that would allow us to tie those things back and see be able to measure email more as an influencer than just as a direct purchase channel. And that's it. Oh. Yeah, so then those are all the databases and they feed into the ESP. I talked through that. Okay. There's our data warehouse in my fantasy brain. Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
So how are you building that?
We're using a company called SSB, and they specialize in data warehouses, and they've actually worked with a lot of venues and ticketing companies, so they're very familiar with ticketing data and the third-party data sources that can also feed in. And we're starting with our transaction data, our web browsing data from analytics. We use IBM Digital Analytics, which I like very much. I know they're not as commonly used as other providers. And then email behavior, of course, from our ESP, which is a company called Deliverate. They're not here this year, but they've come in the past. So we're starting with those three because we feel like we can improve a lot of attribution just by integrating the web visits, the transactions, and the email opens. That's three different data sources in three different places that have been hard to get together. And because we already have the Wi-Fi logins in our email database, we're shortcutting to get the Wi-Fi logins into the data warehouse through we're putting the data in the ESP and then sending it back out to the data warehouse. Down the road, we'll build a direct connection between the Wi-Fi and the data warehouse, but in the meantime, it just enables us, since we've put so many data sources into our ESP database, it enables us to quickly get more of those data sources into the data warehouse without building, all the integrations at once. And then we're going to use it for business intelligence and for email segmentation. So it's exciting, but
Complex.
Very.
Both of you have a complex attribution thing going on here. So let's just start real basic. Why is attribution so important? Why don't we all just do last click attribution and call it a day?
Well, don't hate me for that, but we actually do that.
I actually knew that, but okay. But you did tell me that you've tested like rules-based attribution models. And
yes, we did.
Talk a little bit about that. Like, why did you settle back on?
So for the last 2 years, actually, we have been trying to test different data attribution models, and finally we actually have settled back or given up on all the others and have settled on the last click model. And I think the reason is very pragmatic. It's like for us, it works actually at the moment. In our organization, we have a lot, so like any other organization, we are growing at a very, very fast pace, and there's a lot of stress on our tech departments, on our analysis departments, and it's all us who are actually giving them the requirements and prioritizations. So we have seen that, and we've seen that that a lot of investment is required in this thing, in deciding on the attribution model. And there is no upfront benefit that we can, clearly outline. And even at the end of it, maybe what might happen at the end of us putting in the perfect attribution model, if there is something like that out there, that might only confirm that whatever are the investment, whatever are the media purchase that we are making today, it's the same model today. That same model might be reinforced through the other attribution model. So what we see is that no upfront benefit can be offered to our CFOs to have this huge investment in terms of this. We have been testing it on a smaller scale, and the results are mild. So we could not see any huge difference. And if and when there would be a huge difference, somebody might come and challenge the actual assumptions of the data-driven, because data-driven model, it's actually a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah? So it's as good as whatever you ask it to produce. If we move on to something, it's going to be algorithmic, but again, this is the North Star that we will head to someday. But at the moment, for us, the last click model works to track our KPIs, and that's what it matters at the moment for us.
Gotcha.
So we definitely used last click for the longest time because it made email look really good. And we were trying to sell our email list. So it was like win-win. We would sell our email list to a show, and they would give us thousands of dollars to send an email offer to our list, and then people would click through and buy. It was all totally trackable. Now, of course, people aren't instantly responding to email, at least in our market, the way that they used to. And so now Last Click is making email actually look pretty poor relative to how much we're charging for it. And it's making other channels like Facebook retargeting ads look amazing because of how trackable those kinds of ads are. So hence the data warehouse initiative that I mentioned. And also looking into other tracking opportunities to try to measure email as an influencer. And we really haven't had the infrastructure to do that because we had built infrastructure to measure Last Click kind of years and years and years ago, and it worked fine. So there wasn't any reason to replace it, and it made our program look good, and it made our program generate revenue, and now it doesn't. So that's one of the sort of two prongs, is trying to see email as an influencer, and then we're also working on some of our content in creating more nurturing campaigns for the folks who come to our list, either via Wi-Fi logins or some of the other non-transactional ways of getting onto our list.
So, thank you. So, Amir, for you, are you finding something similar yet? I mean, you said your organization is growing kind of gangbusters and whatnot. But as it sort of levels off and the email program gets a little bit more mature, do you think you might find yourself in a similar situation to Jennifer?
Yeah, that tipping point has not been, we haven't gone through that tipping point yet. But the decision is going to be not only email-based, unlike what Jennifer has said. For us, we sit in a larger team which also does the search and the display. And that's one of the reasons we are comfortable with the Last Click at the moment as well. Because yes, we see whatever is the attribution and whatever is the final channel that is actually making the conversion, we still know that what are we spending on the other channels. And if it's a CPC or a CPA based, we know that they are doing something. Mm-hmm. And we are allocating our budgets based on that. So whenever it happens, I think it's going to be a combined decision between all our channels. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I do not actually drive that decision at my level.
Okay, thanks. Let's talk about each of the touch points then that we went over going through your various attribution models. So talk about the touch points. How are you measuring the impact of each, and which touch points beyond email are sort of gaining in more importance for your brands?
Yeah, so as I said, while we have only Last Click attribution, we have the conversion path analysis, and we're looking at how all the other touch points, how are the other channels performing overall, how much are they spending versus how much are they converting on the Last Click model. So through the conversion path funnels, we know what are the channels that are contributing towards the ultimate, and this is like a sort of a manual process at our end, only on a need-to basis. When we are doing the budget exercise once a year, we sit together with our analysis team, and we work out with them. Most of the time, I would sit with them and make email look good, so that I can get more budgets. Generally speaking, of course, the search and the display get the lion's share in terms of the budget's allocation, because email is supposed to be free. However, so for us, when we're looking at those things, we see clearly the channel gaining the most importance is the mobile for us. So be it mobile emails or be it mobile search, mobile display, push notifications. So these are the things that we are really focusing on now.
So for us, over the last couple of years, we've really focused on building out our infrastructure in display advertising. As I mentioned, basically tracking customers on our site through third-party pixels, and then enabling shows or other third parties in the travel space, et cetera. But let's focus on the shows right now, to then target customers either who have browsed their show or who have browsed similar shows. So that's been very, very successful in terms of the shows liking it and the shows buying campaigns and generating ticket sales from it. Unfortunately, it doesn't even come close to replacing the revenue we used to get from charging shows to send emails. So the other area that is very popular is social CRM-based advertising, so like Google Plus or Facebook, where we provide the list of email addresses based on those segments I mentioned earlier, or custom segments. And then we upload them to Facebook or to Google Plus, and then the shows buy ads off those. So we get a small fee from the shows for providing that data, which they then use for direct retargeting or direct display advertising or for lookalike modeling. And either way, it's been incredibly successful for them. Again, doesn't generate anywhere close to the amount of revenue that we were getting from selling emails. So our big struggle, it's not to identify other channels that work to talk to potential Broadway ticket buyers. There's plenty of those, and we've been able to monetize them, just not enough.
Right. So, Steve, do I have to go to questions now? I mean, I know it's like 10:45.
Yeah,
I have a lot
should.
more questions.
But let's see if we've got any questions from the audience first, and then you can ask
Okay.
a wrap question.
All right, yeah.
Wrap question.
Okay. Ryan's got a question. Did you need a mic or?
So if you guys, in talking about changing your attribution model, and Amir, you touched on this, is it seen as a siloed effort or as part of a larger change in an organization to look at not only changing an attribution model, but looking at how typically siloed groups work together, that you don't need to have that as much in a shared attribution model anymore, budgets change, all these things, it's more of an organizational change in predicate to a larger change in terms of addressing the consumer externally, right? Did you guys do that, or was it saying that this is like step one and it didn't work, so we didn't go the next step, or was it seen organizationally?
To some extent, it was tied to an organizational change as well. Of course, when you're talking about budget allocations, you're talking about breaking the silos. If the information needs to flow through freely, you need to break some silos, and that's part of the complexity. When you're trying to change the organization based on, again, something which is not very material at the moment, and even for the higher management. And that's where we face difficulty, is because we probably tried to muscle ourselves in terms of the organizational change. But I took a note from Mark Scheinkin's email presentation yesterday, where he said, we should be working without the organizational changes. So he was talking about another thing altogether, but I think that's a lesson that we can learn on the attribution side as well. Maybe just talk about the information first and let the organization decide at a later stage, maybe. That would have made things slightly simpler. Still wouldn't solve the issue, but to some extent at least.
More questions? No? All right. Do I have more time, or it's up to you? Okay, I'll do a wrap question. So, well, do you agree with the premise then that because in the panel description it says every touch point is a brand impression and every email is a call to action. Do you agree with that? And if so, do you feel your attribution model adequately reflects that?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay, well, there you
Yes
go.
and no. I don't think
Lightning
anybody
round.
would say
There you
no
go.
to the first one.
But you're working on it. We're working on it.
Yeah.
Although, interestingly, I came to this conference 3 years ago, and back then I would have, actually. I was very annoyed with the people in our company who were trying to push shows to send emails that weren't getting good sales response, because I felt like it was a sign that we were emailing our customers with stuff they weren't interested in. And there was a big push elsewhere in our company, these are brand impressions, the shows care about that more than they care about actually selling tickets, and I felt like that was actually kind of tiring out our email list. So 3 years ago, I would have made that argument, and now I'm totally not. So.
You just, yeah, we need the mic for the folks.
So this is for
home.
Jennifer then as a follow-up. What's changed in the last 3 years that's kind of changed your mind on that?
I think it probably comes down to mobile. We just see way fewer people actually kind of opening our email and being ready to buy. Over 60% of them are opening on mobile. I think we have a great mobile shopping experience, but you know what? If you're spending $500 on Broadway tickets, you might not just do it in 5 minutes on your phone. You might want to spend a little more time on it than that, and we do offer a more robust shopping experience on the desktop, and then someone has to remember, okay, now I'm home from work, I'm gonna go on my computer and do it, and then they might not pull up the same email, they might find another email or just Google or whatever. So I think mobile has really shifted the sort of shopping and email response equation for us.
Do you think that's also, sorry.
That's how I keep my girls figured.
Do Do you think that's also why maybe your sold email product isn't doing as well as it was doing 3 years ago? It's mobile.
Yeah, because I think we can't show as many direct attribution sales, and that's why I'm trying to see if we can measure email as an influencer. Yeah, it's all kind of tied up together, and it's spelled a real revenue decline for our email program, which is not good.
All right. Great. Well, thank you both for being here today, and thank you, audience.
Thank you, Ross, Amir, Jennifer. Thanks very much. Let me ask Jess and our next panel to come up. As you can tell from what we do, my marching orders for all of our programming is talk out of example, not platitudes. And thanks to all of them for doing exactly that today. This day is about sharing tactics and experiences, limitations and challenges. And for our next panel on segmentation, I wanted to tease out a common topic, but again, talk out of example, of balancing segmentation with scale and cost. All of these things have changed. Segmentation has always been both the opportunity and the challenge for email, obviously, but a lot of the options have changed, especially in recent years, as the cost of content and the focus on content has become greater, but at the same time, a set of tools have emerged, especially for dynamic content, that have helped make it a little more accessible. So I wanted to bring up this topic of segmentation, which data to use and not to use, how much segmentation to use and not to use, and how it balances against scale and cost. To take the lead on this, we have our own Jess Nelson, who is the editor of our Email Marketing Daily. For those of you who are not subscribing to this daily, we have it. You should go to MediaPost.com and click on the drop-down and find the Email Marketing Daily. Jess is our editor, reporting on it regularly. And here over these 3 days, so if any of you have stories to tell, she's our main reporter on this. She's been reporting on email for us for a couple of years. Before that, worked in PR and as a communications freelancer. Please welcome Jess and the panel.
Thanks, everyone. I'm excited to be here. Actually, after we finish chatting today, if nobody wants to go have fun in the snow, I'll be at the Troll Helen Lounge, and I'd love to hear any really exciting case studies. If you guys think you have great stories to tell us, we'd love to have them in MediaPost. I'm going to give our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristen Bond, also known as Email Snarketing, so you may have been seeing my tweets. I am the Senior Email Marketing Manager at Girl Scouts of the USA, which is the national headquarters for Girl Scouts. Any of you Girl Scouts in the room, former Girl Scouts, or any of you have daughters who are Girl Scouts now? Yay, I love seeing that, so thank you for being part of the program, it's great. So we are in the process of migrating all of our 112 local Girl Scout councils to the same email service provider. So I kind of manage that. So I've done 70 ESP migrations in the last year and a half, and I have another 70-ish for the next year. So we have lots of data. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Hello, my name is James Brohammer. I'm with Overstock.com, and I'm a brand manager, so my use of email comes from using our CRM data, matching that to our customer base, and then hashing or encrypting that information and sending it out to walled gardens and other publishers to match to their CRM data, doing audience extension, using that information for advertising and marketing outside of email. So we have a pretty robust email team, but I generally don't touch the operational side. I touch the out-of-email channel, but using our CRM data and our emails to actually extend our reach and to build more robust campaigns outside of email.
Hi, Itai Rahat with Warner Music Group. I oversee all of our consumer-level data platforms, our global email program, marketing cloud, data warehouse, marketing automation programs, and all the integrations and architecture that comes out of that.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yes. Hi, I'm Shilpi Talwar, and I am the Director of CRM and Email Marketing at an online coupon company called Shop at Home, based out of Denver. So we do a lot of affiliate marketing, for example, with brands like Overstock and Gap and Macy's and things like that. I've been with the company for about 6 months. So it's been an interesting 6 months because, there's lots of room to do a lot of things, and things that we are doing well, things that we can do better.
So before we dive into the nitty-gritty of segmentation, as we all know, we can't segment our emails without the data. So as our first question, I'd love to kind of hear from you. Is your data all in one location? Is it in a central database? And if so, kind of how did you migrate those data sources, and has it improved your efficiency?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, we're in the process of migrating our 112 local councils to the same systems for everything. So, up until about 2 years ago, they were all on whatever CRM they wanted to do, whatever ESP they wanted to do, and whatever web platform they wanted to do. So at the national level, we had very little visibility into our data. Like, we got the membership numbers, but we had no idea of like where the holdups were and where we were struggling to retain people. So we started this initiative to migrate everyone to the same web platform, which we're using Adobe for, CRM, which we use Salesforce for, and then email service provider, which we're using ExactTarget, Salesforce Marketing Cloud. I'm old school, I want to call it ET. But so we're about halfway there, like I mentioned. So we have data in a lot of places, not just at the council level, but even at the national level. So we've been around for 104 years. And obviously we didn't have digital data 104 years ago, but we do have a lot of decades of really old data. And it's messy and it's in a lot of different systems. So our end game is getting everything in our Salesforce instance, but we're still probably at least a year, if not 2 or 3 years away from getting there.
Yeah, I don't deal so much with the back end of the data. I know because of the nature of our business, we have a lot of it because we have all the information from initial touch to purchase to lifetime value. So we have a lot, you know, you can only buy online from us. So we see that customer all the way through the journey, which gives us about 4 or 5 different databases that we have to merge in with our email database and all of our CRM data. So we have a pretty robust internal team of data scientists and analytics departments and marketing analytics that do that for us. And it's not necessarily as clean as it should be, as it could be, but I think anybody working with that amount of data, I know we have at least 4 or 5 different sources. It gets kind of messy at points.
Yeah, so we went through a process of migrating about 1,500 artists' databases. We run all the artist email lists worldwide, where we can, under our agreement with them. And went through the process of consolidating all of those from 14 different systems into one system. We wanted to know, as a company, how much audience do we control? What's the global? It was mostly segmented by country, like different territories had different systems. We needed to know globally, you know, an artist is often a global business. What's the data we have to work with? And to provide better insights, oversight for the company, as well as overall reporting, both for the artists and all the different territories that, and the brand marketers that touch the database. Also, if you want to take advantage of new integrations, new sophisticated things we develop, new marketing automations, it's kind of easier where everything is on one platform. You build the way it should go and you scale it to different databases rather than trying to figure it out for each and every different system. But it comes with responsibility. You need to have a team that is governing it and managing it and servicing what's now 200 marketers around the globe using the system. And yeah, so.
So I think I'm lucky. We actually have just 2 databases. One is our transactional database that we have all the information on a customer who visited our website, what did they buy, how often did they buy it, when did they buy it. We have unique customer IDs in there so we can really follow the customer. And then we have our ESP database, which has all the email engagement metrics, and we use Salesforce Marketing Cloud for that. So I think I'm kind of in a lucky spot where I have 2 databases that work.
Curious, like what different demographic or geographic attributes do you segment your marketing campaigns by? And are you happy with that current segmentation, or are you looking to improve it in the new year?
So we have a lot of different ways that we segment. So at the national level, we own membership and alumna and retail and donors for just donating to the national organization. So those are the only people we email. We have a couple of lists where people can subscribe to a general Girl Scout newsletter or a cookie-related email. So just, yeah, if you're a consumer and just want to know when cookie season starts in your area, you can sign up for emails about that. I'm going to start sending them next week. Exciting. But so that's what I do at the national level, but all of our local councils are targeting completely different because they own the relationships with our members and parents and volunteers. So they're emailing volunteers, troop leaders, and parents. And as we've gotten them all on the same system where we're able to do more targeted segmentation than we were before with whatever they were on before, they're actually starting to segment by audience a little bit more. So a lot of them have a volunteer newsletter and a parent newsletter, and it's different information. But they also know that a lot of parents, or a lot of volunteers are also parents because their daughter is in that same troop. So we're really kind of targeting a lot of different audiences. A weird thing about our organization and just the nature of what we can do with marketing, our target audience is girls, like children who are between the ages of kindergarten through 12th grade, and most of our members are in the K through 5 area, which that's not a demographic we can actually email because they're under 13 and we legally can't, and they don't have email addresses. So it's interesting that we can't really message the people that we need to message, so we're messaging their parents instead. So, and yeah, as far as like what we would like to get for next year, I mean, we do have a lot of information about them already because when they register as a member, they have to give us a lot of information. So we know their school, we know their girl's age, we know how many girls are in each household, that kind of thing. So we use that.
Yeah, we do a lot of segmenting, both on a geographic level. You know, the month of April, somebody in the Sun Belt's buying patio furniture while somebody in upstate New York is still looking at, you know, cozying up their home. We look at everything from average order size to taxonomy, what they buy, how much they spend. We look at their demographics. We look at their behavior. One of the advantages that I have, and part of my job is, you know, to chase 30-day, 60-day, 90-day lapsed customers outside of email. So, you know, we email active customers fairly regularly, but we have a lot of other segments built that I work with that go out into like Facebook, GDN, Live Intent, and target those individuals outside of email just to reactivate. We can even target unsubscribe. So we have a complete unsubscribe list that I can go out and I can buy advertising or somebody's email newsletter through a publisher and actually target those individuals where we're not necessarily emailing them, but we're trying to reconnect with them. So our segments, you know, go all over the place.
Most common attribute is probably country, music, especially before what's now called New Music Friday, where there's one day that all music, the music is released around the world. It used to be very territorial, and the music was released in different days in different countries, and you can't have fans from one country know about music, you know, that they can't access and things like that. Other than that, it's also about personalization. So you want to translate it to the language where the fan is, if it's the countries in Europe or you know, if it's a non-English speaking country. So country is definitely a big one. Zip codes as well. We're not using zip codes as is. We're more doing like a radius around zip codes. We have an automated concert alert program, which we built with a partner, Storyboards, that I think are somewhere here. Basically, it identifies an event 10 days in advance that there's a concert. It builds the email with that information. It identifies a segment, 100-mile radius around that zip code of the venue, sends them the email. But what we needed to do is we needed to append like a market attribute to our data, right? So we have zip code, we have state, none of them really, or in city, none of them really work well for targeting for shows. So we created what's called a market attribute, which is basically a group of zip codes. And that is the truth regarding segmenting for tours now. Right, so you could do interesting things by appending to your data. By the way, data normalization is also a big piece. We have thousands of acquisition points worldwide. We have to make sure that when somebody hits the segment by Canada, CA, you know, they're going to get all the Canadian fans. So the data has to be very normalized in the system so that the end user knows what to segment by and will get all the relevant information. Yeah, another important attribute for us is birthday, and that's more for automation. So it's not just about bulk sending with the segments, it's also about when do people become a part of a segment that you can automate by. So We have a lot of birthday programs for our artists, and we also have a cool streaming birthday program where we kind of like serve you, we know you're a streamer and we know your birthday, so we would serve you like based on your birthday, like child of the 90s, child of the 80s, child of the 70s, like a personalized birthday, also based on the country and the decade you were born in.
So we don't do any segmentation by demographics or by zip codes. Our segmentation is basically in 4 big broad buckets. So the first one is very offer-driven, marketing-driven. You know, we are a coupon company, so it still is very, hey, how much percentage can you get from what merchant? So what is that promotion? What is the extra cash back that you can earn with us? So we have that. That's one of our segmentation that is defined by the marketing campaign itself. The second one that we have is looking at customer behavior on our website. So there are triggers on our website that we look at if you have favorited a store or a merchant, if you've signed up for alerts for a certain merchant. You visited our website, but you didn't really buy anything on it. You just kind of dropped off. So we look at those kind of customer behaviors and triggers, and then we run email campaigns against those certain behaviors. The third bucket is transactional emails. And you know, by the nature of transactional emails, they're not the most exciting emails to get. But they're also some of the most relevant emails to get, and that's also one of our biggest revenue drivers. Our transactional emails do exceptionally well. And then I think the last broad bucket that we have for segmentation is we've got, you know, we are in, like I said, an online coupon company. We don't have a retail store to direct you to. So we have, you can use our website, or we have a Chrome extension or a savings button that we have that you can add on to your desktop that goes and looks for the best coupons and deals for you. So as a customer, you're not looking at 100 different websites to find the best coupon. We can do that for you if the merchant allows us and is part of that program. So depending on whether or not you have that product downloaded, that's another segmentation. So if you don't have that product, we have an acquisition kind of a segmentation where we can reach out to people who visited the website in the most recent 30 days and tell them to download the value of that product. And then people who do have that product, we recently started engagement journeys with them because we know there is a 30-day uninstall rate that we have. So if we have engagement journeys and we can have the customer use that for the first 30 days, our uninstall rates really go down. So not so much demographic or geographical, but certainly a more behavior-based.
I think that's actually a great segue into a follow-up question. I think that for a lot of marketers, just the idea of data can be incredibly overwhelming. There's just so much data out there that we as marketers can leverage, and it can be difficult to wade through the best data points to use. So my question, and maybe we'll start with Shilpi, kind of change the order up a little bit, is, you know, maybe what are the 3 data points, if you had to say, that would be really the most relevant and keeping cost considerations in mind?
That's a tough question. 3. I think 3, if I had to pick 3 data points that I have today, it would be the recency of a customer transaction, customer interaction, I should say. So even if you didn't do a transaction, you visited, the recency really matters to me. The second data point would be the average number of orders that once you do become a customer, you get from us, and the tenure of that. And the third and the fourth, since I know I put 2 in there, I was sneaky. The third one that I would say that would be really important for me to know is, when was the last time you engaged through an email campaign with us? So, you know, as you know, I think many of us can attest to this, you have email addresses of millions and millions and millions of people. Great, but that doesn't mean they're all engaged with you. So we really look at who are the most engaged customers from an email perspective, whether they opened an email or not. And that we look at like a 180-day file, and we use predictive audience builder in Marketing Cloud to be able to see that and say, what is your email recency with us and your behavior with us? And those are the 3 that I really look at Can I look at more? Absolutely. Do I want to look at more? Absolutely. But I think the challenge is, I think I've heard over the last 2 days is, there's so much data. Which one is more important and which is not? Because it depends on who you talk to. Every data point is important for everybody. But I think as CRM, that's the struggle, right? To keep everybody in line and keep things in perspective and say, great, we have 40 data points, but 37 of them don't mean anything. So it's always a challenge.
In a world of finite resources and priorities, right? It's extremely important to know what's going to be the most impactful, hopefully that you can measure as well, so that you could scale that. Or build, like Matt from Live Nation said, build some test around the data points that you know are small things, but you'll be able to then scale. I think data source is an interesting one. If somebody is a purchaser, you could dig into what they purchase, et cetera, but just the fact that they're a purchaser, we all know the value of repeat purchasers, et cetera. So that's an important one. For us, it's also how we acquire them. Could be contest sweepstakes, could be through a Facebook or Twitter lead ad, but could be also in venue. We do this SMS campaign where you could text in order to get an upgraded seat or a signed ticket bundle, and we know you were the fan in the venue. And to the former presentation about that Schubert Ticketing had, we don't know all the people that actually are in the venue, us also specifically because we're actually the label, we're not even the ticketing company. And people buy 2, 3, 4 tickets, and there's scalpers that buy tickets, and then other people buy from them on secondary market. So the SMS program is a way to know who actually is on the ground, and it's obviously very valuable people that attended the show. Other than that, our usual one, like I said, is the country and locale. And birthdays is interesting. What we did there is we look at opportunity. We had a large list that we know is associated with streaming, music streaming, and we saw that we have over 95% of birthday data. So we said, what could we do with this? We went to a playlist curation team, and we worked on what type of content let's do a birthday campaign. What type of content can we show? And they said, oh, we'll build those decade playlists. And those are personalized per country because the 80s here is not the same as the 80s in France or Australia. So they had different content from the banner level to the actual playlist level. And then we used dynamic email in Marketing Cloud to be able to show the different decades to each fan based on when they were born and in their language. And what was interesting there is we do a lot of music genre targeting, but we've noticed that if it's your birthday, you listen to that decade playlist, you'd listen to the party playlist more than your genre. And then we kind of looked at where else could that apply, and we also looked at vinyl consumption, for example, where if we identified you as a vinyl lover and purchaser, that would actually be, that affinity is stronger than the genre. It doesn't matter if it's rock, pop, or punk, or whatever. If it's a vinyl bundle, you'll be into getting it more than whatever genre it is. So it's really important to identify which attributes matter most, and then target based on that, and know your audience that way. I think collecting the data could be interesting. There's two pieces to it. One is what we know. If they're a purchaser, we know a bunch of stuff on them. Based on IP, we can know location. We can append more data as, that the fan doesn't have to give it to us directly. But there's also the point of what do they give us. So we have this two-step system where they just give an email address, and then they're subscribed. But then there's a second step that, hey, we want to personalize for you, give us your first name, your birthday, your zip code, et cetera. And so if they complete that, now we have a larger data set, and we still kind of kept the balance on not losing all the conversion by having more fields on the first step. Especially because we have other ways of getting some of that other data.
Now, what were the parameters?
So the question was keeping cost considerations in mind. What would be a handful of data points that you think would be, extremely relevant for your work? Kind of what data should marketers really focus on?
Okay. Number one is the email. And we can't go anywhere without that. Number two would be whether this is an acquisition or retention play. Because that's going to dictate a lot of different things. And number three is probably the biggest, and that's return on ad spend. And kind of put that in perspective, especially on the acquisition side. But
if you're lucky and can measure it.
Well, that's where I'm going with this. So, last click attribution is good, But in a real world where you have 6 different marketing channels, you can't reliably test who's touched that customer. You just tested who touched the customer last. And when you're spending money in display, when you're spending money in sponsorships, partnerships, integrations with publishers, affiliate channels, retargeting, display acquisition, that customer has probably been touched 3 to 4 times. So if I look at just email and I say, hey, I spent $2 to get this new customer through email, the truth is I could have spent another $8 through Criteo, through AppNexus, through Facebook, through Live Intent, and the true ROAS isn't necessarily reflective in the last click. So that's a big challenge for everybody, and I think that's probably one of the most important key data points from somebody who has to manage marketing budgets.
So for us, yes, email address obviously is a given. Number 1, zip code. So even at the national level, if we know their zip code, then we know what their local council is, because we can just match it up with our council data. And if we know what council they are, then we know which cookie bakery they have. So if I'm at the national level sending an email about Girl Scout cookies, and I know that you're in Girl Scouts of Greater New York, I know that your email should feature pictures of tag-alongs. But if I know that you're in Fort Worth with Girl Scouts Texas Oklahoma Plains, I know that you need to have peanut butter patties. They're similar cookies, but it is different by council. So knowing their location is super important for us. And then also, at the national level, I want to know their role, like what their relationship is with Girl Scouts. Are they currently a parent of a member? Are they a volunteer? Are they an alumna? Are they a donor? Are they all 4 of those? Because we do have many people who do fall into all 4 of those buckets. At the council level, I would say that they would need those same things as well, but girl birthday, they capture it when they register, but that's important because that tells them how old the girl is and therefore whether she is a Daisy, Brownie, Junior, Cadet, Senior, or Ambassador. And a lot of councils are doing targeted newsletter content to the parent based on what grade level the girl is in. So if she is in 2nd grade, her parent should be getting Brownie content instead of general content. So just knowing the girl's birthday, it allows us to do birthday content, but also what programmatic content that she would need to get. And it is helpful for us to know if an adult is a parent and a volunteer, because then we might target them with messaging a little bit differently, and we have to be very conscious about the frequency we're sending to them, because someone who is a parent and a volunteer is probably getting a lot of emails from her council, but she might also be getting, generally, parents who become troop leaders might be alumna who were members themselves, so she might also be getting emails from our national office. She might be getting retail emails because she has purchased things for her daughter or for her troop. So that is a big challenge that we have, just managing email exhaustion, because we do have a lot of different senders within any of our subscribers.
So I have a quick question.
Oh, sure.
Did you at one point sell brownies?
No. Brownie, it's just maybe historically, I don't know. I never did. I was a Girl Scout in the early 90s.
I was just wondering how you came up with brownie. So
I'm not sure. I know Daisy's, which is the youngest grade level, which is for kindergarten, is based off of Juliet Gordon-Lowe, who is our founder. When she was her nickname was Daisy, so that's based off of hers. I need to research that, because that is probably something I should know as an employee here.
No worries. For my next question, Ite, I think you actually kind of touched upon this in your earlier response, so I'd like to start with you. But kind of, again, keeping cost considerations in mind, what are really, really efficient ways to acquire data, especially for marketers kind of still dipping their toes in this new big data world?
Yeah, so certainly looking at what you're going to do with this data is an important one. If you're going to do a progressive profiling campaign because you know you're going to use the data, you're going to make sure you get the most conversion to get the most out of whatever investment you're making. So you want to make sure that the form is optimized to the data points that you're looking for. I think, we do a lot of acquisition from social, like lead ads. We're integrated with lead ads on Facebook and Twitter with our database, a lot of contests and sweepstakes. And we're kind of lucky in the sense where, because it's the artist brand, if you sign up for a contest sweepstakes regarding to the artist, There's a higher chance you actually stay on the email list. It's not necessarily a brand that needs to build a whole relationship with you. We try to target already the people that kind of are interested in the artist, so they're more likely to stay on the list, and that's how we get more efficiency there. And we have an onboarding series where we kind of like, we help them discover more about the artist story before we show them any commerce offer. But we do things like you could follow a playlist and with that same clicks, you know, sign up to the email list. We do that SMS venue campaign, in-venue campaign as well. Those would be our bigger ones. Of course, the sites and stores, so, you know, if you're a purchaser, there's an opportunity to opt in. All of we have a network of 600 websites across the world for all of our artists, so that's a big acquisition point as well. Either just as is because they're there and people are looking for information, but it's also important to identify the moments, right? So when there's a new tour, when there's new music, that's when the traffic will come in, and that's where you want to maximize the acquisition effort. That's a huge thing for us. Like if we know we're going to get traffic, if we know the artist is going to get traction, they may be on an awards show or on TV. It doesn't have to be something about their album cycle. That's where we want to make sure we're there, whatever channel we can to collect that audience and collect that information.
So for us, we acquire a lot through display ads and SEM, but we also work with Fluent Marketing to kind of, you know, acquire new leads. And I mean, it's been really good because we can talk to them and qualify some of those acquisition efforts in saying these are the type of customers we want to acquire, because we are working on a predictor model to say what are the attributes that go into defining a buyer for us. So once we have that nailed down, we're right now in the thick of it. We are working with Fluent to acquire those customers, so that's been good.
And they have great beanies. Woo!
Yes, they do.
James?
I think it really depends on what the goal is. Especially in my case, you know, whether we're just doing straight lead gen or we're, you know, testing something new or modeling offline and online information. I think that's key, is, you know, we have great insight online, but we spend a lot of money offline. So, you know, the kind of data that we collect on the offline, in the offline-online world is difficult. And if it's reliable, it's probably more valuable because it's more difficult to obtain.
Can you repeat what the full question was, or what I?
Yeah,
I'm
of course.
answering?
No, it's really just kind of how do you go about acquiring data?
Okay, so for us, it's kind of easy in that if they're a member already, like when they fill out their membership form, we automatically capture a lot of information about them, and we capture that in our Salesforce instance, so we're able to run reports based off of that. We're still dipping our toes into lead gen in the modern form that it is. So historically with Girl Scouts, a lot of our recruiting, like, because one thing to point out first, I'm not trying to get subscribers or email addresses. I've had a lot of vendors reach out to me like, oh, I can help you get more subscribers and sell more cookies. And it's like, I don't actually sell the cookies, the girls do. So get me more members so that they can sell more cookies, and then we'll talk. So what we're trying to do is get more members. So we're building out an actual like lead gen program. Even within our Salesforce instance, we're still building out what the lead object looks like, because there are so many variables. Because for us, a lead might not just be a potential Girl Scout. A lead could be an alumna who has been disconnected with us for the last 20 years who wants to get back involved with us. So we're figuring out what that data model looks like. But historically with Girl Scouts, a lot of our recruitment efforts have been offline. So a lot of those have been like a volunteer or council employee is going to school, open house nights, and maybe does a presentation and has a sign-up form, and people fill out paper forms, and then the forms all go back to their office and they do data entry. So part of our whole initiative to get everyone on the same technology involves shifting from that to actual digital forms, because data entry is kind of nuts for what we do and just the volume that we do. So yeah, we're trying to modernize it a little bit. So now a lot of them have tablets that they'll take to these events, and people fill out the forms online. We've dabbled in a texting campaign this past cookie season that did really well. So we had at booth sales, girls were given these little business cards that they could hand out to people, where on one side it would have, hey, need more cookies? Here's how to get them from me. And the girl could put her contact information. So that gave the girl motivation to actually hand them out. But then on the other side, it was, oh, want to learn more about Girl Scouts? Text GS join to whatever the number was. And from that campaign, they'd be opting into texting, and it would send them to a form where we're just capturing their email, zip code, and phone number. So very simple. But then from there, like I was mentioning earlier, by capturing their zip code, we knew what council they were, so that would put them in an automated series where they would get emails, and I had a data extension that had all of the council zip codes and all of the join URLs for each council. So I had a query that was populating the local council's join URL. So even though the national office was sending it and automating everything, they're still getting localized content. So yeah,
And it's like a series that
Yeah.
the end is converting them to like an active
right, yeah.
member,
So
right?
so like I don't even see the end results of that. I can see how many people got my email and how many clicked on it, but I don't easily have a way to see if the person actually joined at their council. I mean, unless I want to do a lot of manual queries.
Yeah. No, but it's interesting, right? Instead of like the form, the manual stuff that
Yeah.
used to be, and then somebody maybe calls or whatever, like the old B2B CRM now. CRM is now a B2C function
Yeah,
around, because of technology, enables us to do it, digital technology, and I think it's amazing to be able to do segmentation, the automation, the funnel, which is all automated and personalized, which is a complete shift from B2B CRM to now a function in all of the B2C companies as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of our councils were a little bit hesitant at first when we rolled out this huge thing for them to do, because it is a very big shift in how they operate. But when they saw that what they can see on a person's contact record, that they can see how many phone calls they've had to customer service and what emails they've gotten and when, and did they open them, and then all the other information we have about them, it's been a really, really valuable tool. It's been kind of interesting too, like they're like, oh, well, we're getting so many more cases coming in. It's like, you're actually getting the same number, you're just able to see them now. So it's been really, really interesting for us to kind of navigate all of that. But overall, it's been a positive response. And after they've been on it 6 months to a year, they have started to see really, really powerful results. So that's very exciting for us.
Are you doing some testing to see like somehow with the council what ends up converting better into an active
Kind of. So some of the council, like they all do their own marketing. They all do whatever they want. Some of them are more advanced than others. Some of them are doing a lot of A/B testing and automation, and some of them are just getting started and learning, and we'll get there. But like we're using Chatter so that they can all talk to each other and ask each other questions. So when one council finds something that works for them, I try to get them on a webinar and share it with the others so they can all learn from each other. Yeah, like we're
very important.
Yeah, we're such a collaborative organization, and we all want to help each other because we do all have the goal of increasing membership and retaining our current members. So it's been very exciting just to see it all unfold, and it's so rewarding for me when I see a council doing email well. It's the best feeling.
So we have a little under 5 minutes left, so I wanted to take the opportunity to open it up to the floor to see if anyone has any questions. Or not. All right, well, in that case, we're going to go to a lightning round. Yay! All right, so for this one, let's start. We'll start with James heading to the left. Acquisition or retention?
How much money do you have to spend?
Is one-word answer?
I lean towards acquisition, just because it's easier to do with what I do. But you certainly have a bigger return on your investment with the retention side, obviously. So that's a hard question to ask.
Acquisition. Depends on attribution model, but and reporting, but acquisition, yeah.
Retention.
We have to do both because girls age out of Girl Scouts at some point in their life, like when they graduate from high school. So we want to retain them, but we also have to constantly have a pipeline of younger girls who are just aging into the program. So we have to do both.
Okay, and again, starting with James, this time moving to the right. Kind of looking to the future, what technologies are you really paying attention to? What might you want to invest in the new year?
Oh, wow, good question. For me, I think the first party to second party data match and where that's going using CRM data is huge. Everybody here knows Facebook works, Live Intent works, GDN on a certain level works, and it's because they're walled gardens and you get reliable first party to second party data match and modeling. Working with a lot of publishers right now to do the same thing with their second party data match. I think publishers are in the future going to create content and capture emails and CRM data and not charge a fee like they have in the past, but actually just give enriched content to individuals because they see this coming. And part of the evidence I use for that is Amazon and Facebook just released their header bidding tag to publishers, which is huge and which is exciting for me. So I can't wait to start buying that inventory and see how that works as well.
Okay, my answer is not going to be popular with a lot of people in this room because a lot of you often try to sell me things. But we're not going to invest in anything new because we're still halfway through migrating all of our people, and that in itself is a huge investment. And we are a nonprofit. A lot of people forget that about Girl Scouts, and we have very little budget to do any fun, cool email tool things. So it's kind of disappointing for me because I come to this and I see all this amazing technology that all of you have to offer, and I'm friends with you and I like you all. And a lot of times I have to say, sorry, we don't have the budget or we're not able to. So next year I hope I have a better answer for that because we'll have migrated everyone on and gotten past that and be ready to move on to the next thing. But as far as like new technologies, like we're actually starting to look more in, it's not super new I guess, but we are looking more into SMS and texting because a lot of our councils have requested like, hey, we want a way to quickly message all of our troop leaders or parents. So we have situations where like, oh, there's bad weather and a big event is canceled, they want to be able to quickly message them. And we've dabbled a little bit in SMS, but we want to start rolling that out in a bigger way. So we're hoping to get there, hopefully in the next year or so.
So I would like to invest in the first and second party data as well, know more about my customers so I can set up more trigger campaigns and CRM programs for them. Because right now I only know what I know through my website. That's one. The second thing I would like to do is kind of understand get better content that I could include in my emails and put some interaction in my emails. So tools that make it possible for me to do that, those would be my two big focuses.
Some predictive intelligence, product recommendations on our stores, and then definitely getting into the whole ad technology and how we connect CRM into that first and second party data. For sure, that's a big focus for 2017.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jess. Thanks, panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ite, we're going to have a roundtable on this very topic at the end of the morning, and Ite will be running it. I wanted to round out this morning with a really cool case, and I hope you'll agree. As soon as I saw it and talked to Jason on the phone about what they were doing with the Detroit Pistons and his arena and the ways in which they were turning email into essentially a real-time publishing channel that could target and send content to people both before, during, and after games was really fascinating to me, as well as the efficiencies that he was realizing and where he was grabbing that data real time. To talk to us about the ways in which the Detroit Pistons and Palace Sports and Entertainment is using email and turning it into a real-time publishing channel, we have Jason Scott, who's the director of e-marketing at Palace Sports and Entertainment, also the owner of the Detroit Pistons, as well as a number of arenas. Jason's the guy that you want to talk to if you want to get the scuttlebutt on Adele and Coldplay, because he's backstage with most of them. Please welcome Jason Scott.
Wow, this is quite intimidating. I'm not a speaker. I don't do a lot of speaking, so go easy on me with anything. I got an email this morning, kind of made things worse. I got an email from our social team asking me, were you presenting and is it live and can we stream it? And so somehow they found it monitoring the social channels that we were live streaming this. So everyone back in Detroit, if you're there, hi. Don't make comments, please. So my name is Jason Scott. I'm the director of e-marketing for Palace Sports and Entertainment. This is me. I'm Jason. I hang out at the Palace, which is our arena, which is also where our offices are located. So I'm kind of spoiled. I have season tickets. They're great seats. I have a 2-year-old son who is spoiled as well. He's grown up watching the Pistons and running around suites and going down courtside and all that kind of stuff. I will tell you that it is much harder to play a game of basketball on a full-size NBA court in an arena than it actually looks. It's very tiring and it's a major workout. So what is Palace Sports Entertainment? So Palace Sports Entertainment, we are the Detroit Pistons, the Palace of Auburn Hills, which is the arena we play in. We also own and operate DT Energy Music Theater, which is an outdoor amphitheater that seats approximately 15,000 people. If that's our summer, if you're touring in the summer, you're going to DTE. It's a blast, it's amazing. We also operate Meadowbrook Amphitheater, which is a local college campus amphitheater that seats approximately 7,000. And then we also operate Freedom Hill, which is another amphitheater that seats approximately 7,500. Within that, we do kind of break down how we sell tickets. So you can buy individual tickets to an event. You can also purchase a membership, which essentially means season tickets. Most people don't know this, but you can buy season tickets to concerts as well. So you could buy season tickets to DTE, and you get tickets to every single show that goes through there. Same with the Palace, same with the Pistons, all of that. So my job is to oversee all of these: email communications, lead generation, retention, membership. All of that falls under my department. We also operate the fan clubs, so newsletters. My plan was to bring Hooper, which is our mascot, to liven up the crowd. Who doesn't love a mascot running through, acting crazy? Unfortunately, we have a game tonight, so he couldn't make it. I asked to borrow his t-shirt cannon. He said, no problem. Unfortunately, TSA, they wouldn't let it through. So we're just gonna skip over that. So one of the big things for us is ticketing. We do a lot of pre-sales, we do on-sales, and pre-sales happen for our fan clubs, our members, for individual game buyers. The biggest hurdle that we have is that it's all timed. You only have so long for a pre-sale to work, and most people don't impulse buy on a pre-sale. So we need to inform them that tickets are going on sale so they can check, make sure that there's no kids event, the kids don't have soccer that night, their buddies want to go, whatever it happens to be. And one of the hurdles we also see is after the pre-sale, if it's done, people still try and plug in the pre-sale code, but it doesn't work. It doesn't just let you buy tickets. So we're getting replies, oh, now the pre-sale code doesn't work. Well, you don't need it anymore, it's on sale. So we kind of broke down, this is our opens over time. So as you can see, we broke this down into 3 areas: before, during the pre-sale, and then when the on-sale happens. So we were seeing that we were missing a lot of people on that on-sale end of trailing of it. We'd hit people on the pre-sale, no problem. But what about those people at the end who don't need the pre-sale code? They try to use it and it doesn't work. It just gets frustrating and they abandon it. So we essentially have a live email, and I'm sure a lot of you have done countdown timers before. We count down to the start of the pre-sale. You have a unique pre-sale code. We're optimizing the creative. If we know who your favorite player is, we will highlight your favorite player. And then once the pre-sale starts, we don't count down anymore. We just say, pre-sale's happening. Here's your code, go get tickets. Which works great. But like I was saying, as soon as pre-sale ends, it's not the pre-sale, it's on sale. So we switch that graphic all the way to tickets on sale. So that can maintain through the life of that email. And this is very easy for us to set up. There's not much happening. Overall, we saw $275,000 in direct ticket revenue on that trailing end, that on-sale portion of it, that we don't normally see when we just leave it as a pre-sale mode. And my favorite is we saw a complete decrease in the number of inbound complaints of pre-sale code doesn't work, I can't access it, what's going on? So that was just a very positive thing for us. I'm going really fast and talking really fast, I'm sorry. Here's what I'm really excited about. This is something that we started last season. We did a lot of testing. Just like Live Nation, we sent out a pre-event communication discusses parking, food and beverage, print your tickets, all that normal kind of stuff that you do. But we really wanted to incorporate real-time content. We had great visibility into what was happening during the game. The NBA provides a very robust data feed, stats, last 10 games, last 5 games, all season, last season, players, all of the above. So we looked at it and started reimagining what we could do. And so we typically have who's the matchup, and this goes to current ticket holders. And then we also matched up the stats for the two teams, scores, three-point conversion, all that kind of stuff. But we also started to incorporate live traffic. One of the things that makes us unique is that our arena, there really isn't any outside parking. There's no public transportation. We're in the suburbs. You do need to drive yourself there, take an Uber or something like that, and you have to park on site. There's really no off-site parking. And we wanted to show you and try and help minimize the ingress and egress, a live traffic map, which is feeding directly from Google in real time. So as soon as you open that email, if 75 is backed up, it's highlighted in red. You see that. Also things like ancillary revenue for dining, Pistons mobile app, gear that's pulling in from our online store, upcoming events, and then we also sell sponsorship in all of our assets. So here's kind of what happens on the top portion with the email. So on the far left, this is what happens before the game. It tells you when it starts, stats between the two teams. As soon as it starts pulling in all the stats. Time, score, players' photos, player stats on individuals. So it's always updating, it's always happening. And the great thing about this, we didn't have to build an API. The NBA already had this. This existed. We just had to tap into it. The same API is powering our mobile app. Same data, same up-to-date stats, and it's really fast. Sometimes it's faster than actually the TV delay. So you can sit there and you can look at it and you can see, oh, they just hit the three-point shot, and the next thing you know, it shows up on the TV that hit the three-point shot. As soon as it ends, then we move into an after the game. What's a recap? What was the score? Where were the finals at? One of the unique things that we found when we started testing this is, do we have any Chicago Bulls fans here? I'm sorry. Last December, we were playing the Bulls, and this was one of the first emails we started testing it internally. Well, that game went into 4 overtimes. It went forever. It lasted, it just kept going on. And what we found out is that we assumed that it would go, instead of being first quarter, second, third quarter, fourth quarter, it would go into 1 OT, 2 OT. It didn't. The NBA just feeds it back as 5th quarter, 6th quarter, 7th quarter. So we had to figure out how are we going to make that so it starts showing first over OT and so on. Some of the other challenges that we face, which are not in our control, some of the players that get traded or added or signed, the NBA doesn't have photos of them right away. So newer players that come in or get traded might be a little bit of delay in that, but it's not very common. Again, like I talked about, we have the traffic map. It's exactly Google Maps. This is actually our top link overall. It was previously in our previous email. How am I going to get there, directions and parking. The difference is this one goes directly to Google Maps app right there. So you see it just like you would in here. And what we've actually seen is when we have a high volume game with a lot of traffic issues, our turnstile is much sooner in the game. So turnstile is people getting into the gate. We drive people into the arena sooner, which is great. We want people in the arena sooner. We're also targeting the app. I think everyone's done this, device targeting. You have the iPhone, you see download the App Store, we take you to the App Store, you download it right away. We also want to create ancillary revenue, right? Who doesn't need a jersey or a sweatshirt or a hoodie or a hat? So we pulled this directly from our Pistons locker room website. It's pulling in the latest gear that's on there. So we never actually have to program or create those graphics. We're just pulling it right in. Same thing with the upcoming events. We're pulling that directly from the NBA. We don't have to create the times, double check the dates, the links. It's all right there. So There's a lot of things going on, but it saved us a lot of time because we didn't have to go to creative to go, okay, I need a new matchup, I need a new logo. Oh, we're out of this jersey, so take it out, add this one. Everything was already there. So how does it work? So when we send an email, you open it. As soon as you open it, it makes a request for that image. That image goes to a third party. They crunch the numbers with NBA's API data feed and serve back an image that's based off that API feed. It's very seamless, it's very quick, it's very easy. On our side, when we set up the email, the only thing that we actually have to do is plug in the date for the event. That's it. So it's very simple, very quick for us, and everything else is created and generated. So we saw, there's a lot of people using mobile for us, I think, as well as for everyone else. We saw a 49% lift in how long people were spending in the emails. And they were doing a lot more with it as well. Typically, we'd see people printing their tickets, viewing traffic. Pretty simple. We also saw a lot of people looking at the gear, the merchandise that they could get. And then we also saw a number of people reopening it over time. So people actually intuitively started looking it over, checking traffic data, and as well as what's happening during the game, throughout the game, because we could see when they're opening it and when they're not. Now, I can't put a number on improved ingress or egress, but we can tie it back to when people are getting to the game and when they're scanning their ticket. We see them scanning their tickets sooner when we have a higher proportion of traffic on 75, which is our main thoroughfare. Final piece that we're using, and this was interesting because we're tracking all your information, what you're buying, at concession, what are you doing, is member rewards. So as a member, you get a little membership card. It saves you money at concessions, but we're also using it to track your information. And so we thought we'd want to do a year in review. We've done these in the past. We've said, hey, you've got so many points left, make sure you use them. But what we weren't really doing is we were not telling them about their experience at the game. What were they doing? And so we pulled all the information as to, obviously we had their points. We compared the games they attended to the games that we won and we lost, so we could provide them value that we need you here at the game to win. Whenever you came here, we won 85% of the games. Now, on the flip side, there were people that actually were detrimental to the team. Okay? So we had to make sure that there was built-in logic so that you didn't show a worse percentage than what was our average for the year. So we had a default. We won 63% of our home games. This person, they were there 85% of the time. We also pulled in their favorite concession item. What did they buy most often? This was interesting. This was unbelievably interesting. And so we wanted to make sure we had some decent data. So we pulled a list. What's the most purchased item for every member throughout the season? And we had interns sit down and kind of filter the data out to make sure there was nothing crazy in there. There were some interesting pieces in there. So for a few people, well, the most popular was beer. I think that's pretty common for most people. We had a few people that banana pudding was their most favorite item, okay? So we had some of these unique things that were different, but I don't think they were bad in and of itself. And if you didn't, we do sell a lot of season tickets to B2Bs. They will bring clients in or give tickets away, so they don't necessarily use their membership card, so we may not have a favorite item on there. So again, we had a default. Go check out the new East Terrace, whatever it is. The final piece was, how much money did you save? Let's put $1 and tell you, as a member, you were able to save X number of dollars at concessions. We've never done this before. It's always just been, you save 20% at concessions. Well, what does that translate into real dollars? For example, this person saved $1,231 at concession because they were a member throughout a year, which is a huge thing when you go into renewals and you try and sell them again for the next season. If I can tell you, well, you saved this much just because you were a member, it's a great benefit to our account executives. Again, we had people who never used their membership card, so we can't put $0. We just remind them, don't forget to use your membership card at concession stands. The feedback on this was really positive. There was a lot of hesitation from our account managers. I don't know if I want to share that kind of information, that we're stalking you, right? But we went ahead and did it anyways. And the feedback we got was like, wow, I didn't know I bought that much popcorn. Or I saved that much money. When it came time to renewals, the dollar amount they saved was huge for them. Those discussions went over a lot easier. So compared to what we normally send and what we've done in the past, we had 26% lift in the number of people going to the rewards site to actually use their rewards points and download things. And on the rewards site, there's crazy things. You could actually use your rewards points to use the private Detroit Pistons plane to take a golf trip up north in Michigan and come back. I don't know if anyone's ever been able to use that many points, but it is a possibility. We also, and we can't tie this directly back to a specific email, but going back into the attribution piece, this is just one of many pieces that led to us to have a 90% renewal rate with our members, which is great. The team is doing better, but for our membership, it's not so much about team, it's about the experience that happens. And then again, we had a really positive feedback from a lot of people. We didn't get one complaint of, this is creepy, I don't want you doing this, none of that stuff. So, if you're from the Detroit area, I talked all about the Palace and all that stuff. We just announced that we're moving downtown. So we have to rethink this whole email now, because that venue isn't going to exist in 2017-18 season. Very exciting news for us, very big change. Little Caesars Arena, we're going to share it with the Red Wings. Excited about it. We'll see what the future holds. And go Pistons.
Thank you, Jason. That was great. We have any questions for Jason?
Lauren McDonald, IBM Watson Marketing. Can you talk a bit about the engagement and read rate of those real-time emails?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you actually track, like, literally, did you see people reading them for, like, minutes and stuff like that because it had that, they were refreshing the score and stuff?
Yeah, so we were tracking the amount of time to see how long people were actually using it. And there were times where we were having higher numbers. Like I said, we were almost 50% higher than what we normally send, which was a high email in and of itself, because people wanted to know parking, what's the giveaway for the night, things like that. So we did see a very dramatic shift. We didn't even announce or call out the fact that this email reloads or opens, engage. We didn't call that out. We wanted to soft launch it, see what people did on their own, and use that as a learning. And so it worked really well. We had a lot of people reopening, clicking. We see a spike at the end of the game, people going back in. I'm assuming it's to check traffic. I can't prove that, but I think that's what they're doing with it. But yeah.
Jason, first, nice job.
Thanks, Ryan.
I think you were lying when you said you don't do this very much. And there were no tweets from the Pistons, so I don't think anybody's watching back
Yeah, well.
So with real-time content, how do you draw the line between content that's going to enrich an email and content that could bastardize an app or a website or sacrifice your view on that? Are you just trying to beat everything everywhere, or is there a discussion and look to say, it's too much?
No, and that's a discussion we had internally. And we try to be anywhere that someone wants to consume our media, that's where we want to be. So if you want to be in an email, great. If you want to be in the app, great. Part of it is that we're always creating assets that are sponsorable, right? So for example, we have a sponsor within this email now. That's great. We have one in the app as well. So we try to be everywhere that we can be and monetize it beyond just the ticket purchase.
So first of all, go Pistons. I love the rewards email that you did, and we actually did something very similar, actually, very recently. One of the themes that we've kind of been talking about is we're collecting a lot of data on our customers. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious how you decided what data points to include in that email, and did you talk about how many to include? There was 4 up there. Was there more in some emails? How did you go about determining?
So we sat down with our member services team to really look at a spreadsheet of everything that we have possible. And we did want to include a lot. And I said, we just decided let's keep it simple for the first go around and see what kind of response we get. And I think that the four that we picked were obviously the most popular that we thought would work well, just from a renewal standpoint and engagement standpoint.
Hey Jason, Tim from Gap here. Just a quick question around the conversations that you had internally or had to have in respects to teams that used to build content for your emails that you are now almost tapping into an existing content source in the MBA API, and how those conversations shifted from, we're now looking at different content sources that aren't being deliverables from your team.
Yeah, so we have a great internal creative team who we actually create everything in-house, from our videos, graphics, all that kind of stuff. And so they're a small team, but during the season they're very busy. And so they were very receptive to the idea that, can you come up with a design that looks great that we can go with and utilize year over, or season over season, game over game, that really means that I don't have to come to you with that last minute request of, oh, by the way, so-and-so got hurt, we need to take them out. Because that's a reality in sports, is it's quick and it changes, and 1 minute someone's out and next minute someone's in, and they were very receptive to that.
Thanks. So Bart from Wedding Wire. I kind of think my question is more of a follow-up from Ryan and Lauren, both kind of tying that together. And I've always said, as an email marketer, the best email is going to be low friction and really high utility, which you're doing some really awesome and cool stuff in that area. But if you're giving them everything in the email, then you're taking away from maybe a click to the app or time on site and stuff like that. So how do you think about that conversation internally to sell that? Because I have similar issues of like, well, that's great if you want to give it to them in the email bar, but I'd rather have site traffic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, how do you kind of do that sell internally of like, it's actually better to just give it to them in the email and have a lower friction experience?
So I just went in and said, I'm just going to do it. We had that conversation, and I think it was very receptive. No one wanted to not do that. There's things that you can do in the app that you can't do in the email. For example, in the app, you can order concessions right from your seat in the app. You just can't do that in email. So we kind of try and tie them both together. You couldn't see it in the slides, but we call out the fact that in-seat ordering with the app, download now, like that kind of stuff. So same thing happens in the app. It's get your tickets, don't forget to see your pregame email. So we're trying to be complementary between all channels, whether that's social, the app, the email, web, all that kind of stuff.
I think I'll shout the second part so you don't have to come all the way back over here. But what's also impressive is it looks like you did get a lift in your click rate, I think 25% or something.
Yeah.
Like that. So you're still managing to do that and still direct them and give them something high value.
Yeah, so we already had a very high click rate in general, just because we're always calling out print your tickets, download your tickets, directions in parking, we're always just kind of in there. So we had a very high engagement in general, and we saw a lift in that overall. It was parking, the traffic map was huge. We started seeing people go to our apparel store, which was an increase that we didn't have before. So we did see a positive lift, which was great to see, and it's a good story to tell, when we do things like this. So.
And just for the record, you really have a customer who's buying primarily beer who's saving $1,200 a year on that? What the hell is going on in there?
That was a real email for one of our members. So that was.
Jesus. Thank you, Jason, very much. Thanks.
Thanks.
Before we break to roundtables, John, you've got an announcement about the.
Mr. Green, why don't you take it away from right here and tell them what's up?
Sure. So for those of you that don't remember, James Green from Magnetic, we have GoPros for the skiing today. You can pick them up in the locker room. We're also going to have at least one on the tubing, so if you're going tubing, we might get some fun there too. We've got footage from yesterday. It looks fantastic, but there's always room to do better. And the awards will be tonight
right after dinner. So I think the dinner's in the Elk Lodge.
It's, yeah, down, it's actually down at the base of the ski area, just right behind Stein's here, and then we're doing cocktails and dinner in the same place, in the same place, yes.
Right, so right after dinner, right outside, we've put together, or we will by then have put together, a montage of everything that we've seen, and we'll give the top 5 awards, maybe more if there's better footage. We'll see what the footage looks like. It's a must-see event. The footage that the team puts together is just spectacular. You will love it. So see you after dinner tonight.
All right. Thanks, James. All right, yes, big hand, yes, why not? It is Oscar worthy, I will say. All right, take it away, sir.
Thanks, John. We're going to break for roundtables. Really, I urge you to take part. I think you'll find it rewarding. Supercharging your acquisition tactics, Stephen Driscoll is going to be
Right here.
running that roundtable right here in